You had to sleep through the night?
So it's luckily it's one that goes to like a playroom that when the previous owner did a remodel, they left it separate. So yes, the rest of the house is good.
Oh boy.
So,
all right.
Grateful for the rest of it.
Dawson, what are you grateful for this morning?
Grateful for community. Got a lot of good friends. We were at a wedding last weekend. Just we're surrounded by a lot of good solid people. It's just nice to have that backup.
It's awesome. Well, I'm grateful to kick off the week with you guys. In the next couple of mornings, we're going to spend some time together going through what I hope is very beneficial to your career. What we're going to focus on at the end of the week is going to be very tactical and practical. We have spent, if you've come in here in the last couple of weeks, you had probably seen a bunch of papers spread out everywhere. We have been building in a sense, a boot camp for you guys, a play-by-play way to run your business. And 90% of all agents quit by the end of their third year. And so I feel like they quit not because they're not any good at their job, just because they don't write manual and a playbook. When we were out at Arrington the other day, Tracy, you were showing me your application on your phone, and you were showing me kind of how you get the workouts day. And I think that was really cool because it gives you a game plan day by day, how you can structure your workout. But whenever it comes to your career, a lot of times there's not a tool or a resource to be able to do that. So later on this week, we will talk to you guys about what we're going to be implementing, what our workout of the day in a sense is. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to talk about buyers and sellers. And then today, we just kind of want to talk about your mentality, your heart, and then how we structure our business. And so several months ago, I was talking to Jaleesa about what we do very practically for our clients. And she said, it seems like as we grow our business, very simply, value is the way. And that really hung with me. And that was something that I want to spend some time with today, talking about value being the way in which we grow our business. So whenever you hear the word value, especially as a service provider, what comes to mind for you guys when you hear the word value? Maybe put yourself in the customer's shoes whenever you have received value. What comes to mind?
Getting a good product for a good price.
Good product for good price. What else comes to mind whenever you hear the word value?
Are you speaking in relation to real estate?
Anything. The shoes you bought, the laptop you're using, the car you bought.
Well, I think of Costco.
You could think of Costco. What about Costco?
Well, you usually have to buy a little more volume, but you get good deals.
Man, have you had their meatloaf there?
Huh?
The Costco meatloaf?
That's not there now.
Oh my gosh. Their pre-made meals at Costco are surprisingly unbelievable. Their meatloaf is the best.
It's just, I don't feel there's very many times where I buy something, spend the money, and the money I spend, I go, wow, that was really good value. But when it does, a lot of times you have to Costco, but other times too. But it's just a good feeling when you go, wow, that was a good deal.
Years ago, mostly in the 70s and 80s, there was a really popular motivational speaker. His name was Zig Ziglar. And Zig was famous for saying, if you help enough people in life get what they want, they will help you get what you want. And when we think about growing our careers, when we think about building our businesses, I think it all boils down to value and value creation on behalf of of other people. So in a sense, we all are starting at different places in our career. And when we think about scaling a mountain, when we think about building our business, when we think about goal setting, there in a sense, a lot of times is a gap between where we are and where we want to be, where we are and what we can see in the future and how we want to close that gap. I really want to set this precedent that anything that you want in life, you can achieve by creating enough value for enough people. So if you're anything like me, whenever we enter into New Year, a lot of times it's popular to goal set. And sometimes the goal setting is come about by what you want to obtain. What I have realized is that in goal setting, the gift in goal setting is receiving a benefit of who you would have to become. So like if, let's say for talking purposes, you want to double your production in a year. It's really hard to grow your business 25% in a year, much less double your business. Really the fundamental question is, who would you have to become to grow your business where you could double it. So a lot of times in goal setting, the gift is not receiving something. The gift is you becoming more of the person that you could be. So when we talk about value as the way, I really want to relate this today to business. And so today we're going to have this in 3 parts. First part, we're going to talk about business being a spiritual game and how do we create value for people. The second part is my friend Michelle Smalling is going to drop in around 9:30 to talk about Homes for Homes. I thought it would be really cool for her to share what's on the plate for Homes and how Scout's a part of that. And then the third part of today, we're going to talk about building the foundation of your business. As we lead into tomorrow, we're going to talk about buyers, and then we lead into Wednesday, we're going to talk about sellers. So let's jump into business being a spiritual game. And, I really want to make this simple for you. Sometimes you hear something over and over and over, and it becomes a head knowledge. But if you're not practicing it, it may not ever translate into becoming practical application. And this is something that I learned years ago. I went to a conference. I went to Utah, and this guy had spoke about the simplicity of business being a spiritual game. And it's something that has hung with me for probably about 5 or 6 years. So I want to teach you kind of the framework about playing the game. A lot of times it's popular among college students or even high school students to play video games. And somewhere in life, we get away from playing games. But I think business is like the ultimate game. I love because there is an immediate feedback whether you're good enough. There's immediate feedback whether or not you're adding value to people. There's immediate feedback as to where your deficiencies are, whether that's in negotiation, whether that's in prospecting, whether that's in your communication to buyers, your communication to sellers. There's immediate feedback maybe where there's a gap between where you are and where you need to improve upon. And so what I have learned that I would hope that you would take is that your environment, and not necessarily your environment at Scout, but your environment at home, your environment in yourself, how you read or you go to conferences, like your overall environment about what's pouring into you is really, really, really important. Because what it does, it's going to establish our first foundation about yourself and how you maximize yourself. So I'm sipping on water here, and with this water that you're on, it's not quite full to capacity. The more that I play this game of business, realize, man, I got some deficiencies. Man, there's areas that I need to improve upon. Man, I'm getting some feedback from some customers that I'm not enough. I'm getting feedback from customers that I have, basically, I'm not communicating as well as I could have communicated. Every listing presentation, every coffee, everything that you do is an opportunity to get feedback. And I really believe that it's important for us to have this mindset about how are we maximizing ourselves? Are we closing the gap between who we are and who we could be? The next thing in how this game is played is how do we offer that unique value to as many people as possible? And then once that happens, you receive value. So a lot of times we hope that we earn money and we get closings. And so I hope today to break down a simplistic formula about how do you get more deals and how do you get more customers, how do you sell more houses, how do you make more money? Especially on Thursday and Friday, whenever we talk about the how behind our prospecting, I think that that's going to be something that's really a practical way to tell you what should you be doing every week, what should you be doing every month, what should you be doing every quarter. So we've built a framework that you'll be getting later on this week. So here's something that I've realized is that business is, in its basic sense, is a mental sport. It's not very physical. I mean, I know that the Olympics are going on right now and the NBA playoffs are going on. And so in a lot of ways, we watch sports because we love witnessing greatness in a way. I think that business is a mental game. I think it's something that we get the opportunity to play this mental game Monday morning. And typically the game starts off Monday morning when your alarm goes off. And the game starts, do you hit the snooze button and do you show up? Or the games, do you have a schedule in which you play? And so when I say that business is a mental sport, very simply is you give more value to more people better than anyone else. And so that is an obsession that I have. That's an obsession by our team here at Scout is how can we give more value to more people and do it better than anybody else? Because earning money, having transactions, having closings, in a way is just a scoreboard. A scoreboard is a feedback. I find that a lot of times people, as they go into, if they're trying to lose weight, they're trying to get stronger, they're trying to go to the gym, if they get on the scales give them immediate feedback as to how well that they have been disciplining themselves, working out, eating properly, not eating properly. In a way, money serves as a tool. It's not the end all be all, but it does serve as a tool to give us feedback. Closings are in a sense a tool, or in a scoreboard in a sense. I wish we had like a big shot clock on the wall here. Closings are a feedback tool as to people voting on you. Are you valuable in their life? And so I believe it is an incredible privilege to be chosen to sell someone's house. I find it to be an incredible privilege for someone to select you to help them find a house. It is just an incredible privilege. And so when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with Maslow, he had like the pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, food, water, and shelter are the base thing on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when I see that, I'm like, man, what a privilege it is that we get to serve the basic human needs for all of humanity. And so as we look to add value to people, I tell you, I really cannot stress enough, if someone chooses you to sell their house, if someone chooses you to help them find, that is a vote of confidence. That is a vote of their perceived value that you can offer their life. There is something really beautiful about earning that privilege. So whenever we talk about business, I want to make sure that we never lose the humanity and the heart behind we getting to serve humanity. So as it relates to money and transactions, sometimes we could get lost in the numbers, but I want to help you understand that the numbers are a reflection of your efforts, reflection of your discipline, reflection of your time. So, oops, wrong way. The next thing is your business grows, and the amount of money that you earn is in a direct representation of how valuable you are to others. A lot of times value is perceived value. So 89% of people do not work with the same agent that they worked with last time. So if you have a database of say 100 people, 90 people in that 100 people are not going to work with who they worked with last time. So in a sense, that ability to work with them is up for grabs. I think that it's really important to note that what are we putting out there online? How do we show up in terms of how we dress? How do they see us? How do we talk about our clients when we're around other people? If we're always, let's say that we go to dinner and we're like, oh man, I've been working with these clients, they're driving me nuts. Someone may hear you say that, like, I hope that I'm not their crazy client in a couple of years from now if I work with them, versus, man, I've been working really hard today. It's such a privilege. I just love serving my customers. People pick up on how we talk about our customers. People pick up on what we're putting out into on social media. And, this is human nature. People, in a sense, are scanning the room, scanning online as they're scrolling through Facebook. They're looking for, are you adding value to me? What's the benefit to me? So we have to get really good at speaking to how we benefit people's lives. If we're not receiving the results that we hope to receive, there's typically a couple things that could be missing. Number one is the people that we're speaking to are not really that qualified of customers. So for example, let's just say for talking purposes, I recently graduated from Belmont, and all of my customers are recent grads that are looking to get their first job. Well, spending that time on those folks is not really the highest and best use of our time. I had a friend of mine in the past that I've known for almost 20 years. We're very close friends. He is a terrible referral source. I've never, ever gotten a lead from him, but I have sold him 3 or 4 houses now, but he's just not wired to refer. That's just not the way he is. He's kind of an introvert. He spends time by himself quite a bit. His sphere of influence is pretty tight. But then I have people that I've never worked with in my entire life that just keep referring business. A couple weeks ago, I had a financial planner refer me 3 people in 1 week, but yet he's never used me. Okay. This person is a connector. This person is, once he understands value, he speaks to value. But yet I have a friend who I've known for 20 years who's never referred me a single person. And the person that was a financial planner, I've only known them for a couple weeks. So you have to realize some people in your database are not really good referral sources. Some people in your database may not, second thing would be they don't understand your value proposition. They've never connected the benefit from what you do and how that uniquely benefits them. We're going to spend some time maybe tomorrow talking about the uniqueness. I cannot stress that word enough because there are currently a little over 16,000 people in the RealTrack system for real estate agents. A little over 16,000. I had a listing presentation I went on, I guess last week, the week before last, and the girl said, I've got about 20 agents, friends of ours, who sell houses. And are really trying to decide who we want to work with. And keep in mind, I have never, ever, ever talked to this person my entire life, do not know them from Adam, but a past client said, before you make a decision, you need to call my friend Jonathan at Scout first. Well, she ended up hiring us, and we are going to be listing her house this week. So how do we elevate when you have 20 close friends? And she told me, she's like, I've used this agent, I've used this agent, I've used this agent. These are friends of mine. They're in my Bible study. I grew up with this person. I mean, they have great close relationships. How did I win that client whenever I have 20 competitors? And it comes down to uniqueness. And so there's going to come a time in this AIM training that we really want to help you evaluate what is your uniqueness specifically and how you benefit other people. And we're going to talk about this, but everyone has, in a sense, a value structure. And not all of our value structures are equal. So for example, if you're a relationship person, you love connection, you love relationships, and let's say that you also value freedom and you don't want to be told what to do, and you also value your spiritual life, and you also value making money and growing your financial, you don't value all 4 of those equally. You would put those in order in your priority. And a lot of times whenever you start to lay things out for the customer, customers don't equal things uniquely or the same. So whenever you speak to your uniqueness and speak to your customer base, you have to constantly be thinking about benefits, not selling features. I see a lot of agents slip into selling features, not benefits. I'll give you a personal example. When I was in college and I started to buy and sell houses right out of college, I had about 50 transactions of my own under my belt. Now, at this time, this was when they were doing stated income, no-doc loans, which basically means you go into a bank and you just lie about how much money you think you could probably make, and they'll give you a loan based on what you tell them. And they don't even take any documentations. It was stated income. I'm stating that I think I could probably make this year if you give me a loan. And there's no documentation to back it up. It was crazy. So that's how I bought about 50 transactions under my belt before I ever helped a customer. So whenever I started selling real estate, I could have done a couple things. I could have spoke to people like, "Hey, you need to use me. I've got a lot of transactions under my belt. I got a lot of." That would be a feature. I've got transactions under my belt. Or I could speak to benefit. The benefit, for example, whenever I go into a house, let's say that I was in a house that was built sometime between maybe the 50s and the 70s. We would go into a house and a customer would say, "Hey, man, I really don't like this carpet. Do you think that we could tear this carpet out and get hardwood floors?" And so what I would always do is I would go to the corner of the carpet and I'd find a register just like this, and I'd pick up the register and I would pull back the carpet to see if they had hardwood floors. Because almost always around the 50s and the 70s, they have real hardwood floors under most carpets. And the client would be saying, "How did you know there was hardwood floors on there?" I was like, "Well, because in the 50s and 70s, almost always they did hardwood floors. And then sometimes 70s and 80s, they started covering up with carpet." So if we're in a house in that period, there's a really good chance that they've got hardwood floors under the carpet. And so if you pull up the register and you just pull back the carpet, you can see if there's a tongue and groove of hardwood floors. So they're like, oh man, I guess that's great, but I wonder how much it would cost to refinish. And at that time, it would be somewhere around $2, $2.25. It's certainly gone up since then. And I would look at the listing and I'd say, well, I think our square footage is somewhere around this. And I would calculate it for them. I'd say, well, I think for about $4,500, you could get all these floors sanded and finished. So I would not speak to the feature that I have sold a lot of houses, or I bought and sold personally a lot of houses. I would speak to the benefit to them. Because I have bought and sold houses, there's some things that I have learned along the way that will benefit you as my client. So whatever your strength is, whatever, you have to play to your strengths. You know, a friend of mine, Justin, he used to sell real estate for us, and he decided he didn't really like selling real estate, so he quit. But his first year, he sold about 15 houses. And I thought that was really, really, really good his first year, but he was a teacher. And so Justin I think that his background as a teacher was so beneficial because he would speak to people about, I have the heart of an educator. And so I'm not here to sell you. In fact, I don't even know how to sell. I'm a teacher at trade. I want to educate you as to if this is a good or bad decision. So that was to the benefit of someone versus the feature of like, yeah, I'm actually doing a part-time gig as a teacher and a real estate agent. So I want to plant the seeds because when we talk about your business growing and it's a representation of how valuable you are to other people, I want you to start to get in the habit of speaking to benefits, not necessarily just selling features. Sometimes you can sell your features, but it has to make the conversion to the benefit. And I find that that's where a lot of agents fall short is you have someone listening, you have someone who has set an appointment, you have someone who's at coffee with you, and I just want to get to know you. I want to build a relationship with you. Man, I'm not going to waste that 45 minutes or an hour. I'm going to make sure that there's no way that they can leave that encounter, no matter how brief it was, without hearing a benefit, okay? So let me give you an example. I told you that there was a guy that I met, a financial planner, who referred me three deals in the past 2 weeks. I have not known him that long. Like when I say long, like a couple months, I had about a 30-minute meeting with him at his office. And I specifically had a mutual friend, a past client. I said, hey, is there anybody that you think I should get to know? I'm not asking like, who do you know? Anybody want to buy or sell a house? I'm not asking for referrals first. I'm asking for introductions. I'm trying to expand my database. And I said, hey, I'd love to get to know anybody that you think is a cool person, anybody that you think is a good connector, anybody that you think is sharp and on the ball. I'm looking to expand my database. And I do this consistently most Mondays. I mean, this is a side tip that's not a part of today. I would strongly, strongly, strongly recommend you making introductions to people. Introductions via text, okay? Because whenever you start to make introductions to people, and let me see if I can't find an example from last week. I've already deleted them all. I try to keep my text messages clean. I deleted last week's. But basically what I do is I'll say, hey, Dawson, you need to know Skip. Skip, you need to know Dawson. The reason why I want y'all to meet, and I will list out, number one, and I usually will do anywhere from 5 to 10 reasons why I think that they would be a good person to meet. I do this consistently because there is value in making connections for people. And it makes it super, super, super easy for them to follow up on it. And also, when you start to sow that seed and people are like, hey, thanks for introducing me to so-and-so, it makes it super easy for me to then say, hey, who do you think I need to know? The guy that I originally got introduced to the financial planner, his name was Dave. Well, Dave, I had referred a couple people to donate money to his charity. And I had said, hey, this is someone that I think you should know. I know that when you make money, you're looking for local charities. I think Dave's a great person that you should consider donating to. Dave, who do you know that's a financial planner? I'm looking to have introductions to financial planners. So he says, you need to talk to my buddy Sten. I talked to Sten, 30-minute meeting, we have about 3 leads that have came in. One of them is already under contract. One goes live today, and then the buyer is coming in town in July. So in that meeting, I'm speaking to the benefit, not the feature. You only have so much time. So a lot of have you ever had a relationship that you made with someone and you haven't known them that long, but you became fast friends? Like you have long-standing friends, and then some people you have fast friends. I mean, it's like, man, I don't know, we hit it off, and it was just magic. Quality of relationships is not always duration. Sometimes quality of relationship have to do with impact. And so whenever you're building your business, I am challenging, and we will spend a lot of time this on Thursday and Friday as we give you your battle plan about impact. Your meetings are not just let's go to lunch and get to know one another, let's spend time. I want to be more microwave about it. This is a game, and I'm trying to spend time with people and communicate how I can add value to their life. If I want to just be easy about it, well, let's go to breakfast Saturday morning. Bring your family, and I'll bring my family. Let's spend a couple hours together if we're trying to. But when we're in business time frames, it's about communicating value. Otherwise, don't call it business, right? Do your relationship building after business hours. Does that make sense? So a lot of times we dissipate our time getting to know people, building relationships, not during business hours. You almost have to put on a different switch whenever you move into business mode, right? So let's talk about, when we talk about spiritual game, I want you to understand human life value. I believe that we're all created by God. And there's 2 questions that I think is really, really, really important to ask. The first one is, who were you intended to become? And what were you intended to do? So I think it was Mark Twain that once said, the 2 most important days of your life is the day that you were born and the day that you understood why you were born, or the day you realized why you're born. So for us, as we've chosen this profession in real estate, I hope that we understand is, who are we intended to become? And how can we use real estate as a platform to become all we were created to be? I don't think that God really cares about necessarily our chosen career path, like whether we're selling chairs or we're selling real estate or we're selling cell phones. I don't think he's like, oh man, you did cell phones and I meant for you to sell plants. I think that whatever career path we choose just happens to be the platform, right? And then who we become based on this platform is really, really important. I love real estate because there is so many different variables, not necessarily in houses. I mean, I think the function of real estate is actually pretty easy. However, human nature and connecting with different types of people at different life stages who have different needs, it really sharpens you as to, can you relate to more people? So who are you intended to become? I believe that it's really important for us to expand our capacity. And then what were you intended to do? I think it's let me give you this frame. Yesterday, we have 2 scenarios in my house. The first scenario, in the morning, the kids were up before church, and they were having such a good time sharing and playing together. And it was beautiful. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just watching my kids love on each other, giving each other hugs, giving each other kisses, giving each other. I'm like, this is the best thing in the world. Watching the kids love and play together, and in a sense, share an experience. Later on in the day, same day, they have lost their marbles and they are fighting and they're pulling against each other. I'm like, stop! You're your brother and sister. Stop! You can't treat each other like this. I'm like playing referee, and nothing brought me more joy than to watch my kids love on each other and play together. Nothing frustrates me more than to watch my kids work against one another, striving against one another. And so I have to think that what we were intended to do, I don't think that God really cares about our career path as much as, can we love other people? We're children of God serving other children of God. And so as we get the privilege of connecting with our friends, we get the privilege of connecting with their friends, I think that God's pretty happy about when we go into the day, we labor on people's behalf to give them something. We are going open-handed to contribute to them. That is one of the things that God, I felt like, was whispering to me yesterday when I was watching my kids, like, that's what I want you to do. happens to be in real estate, but that's what I want you to do. I want you to go into the day looking to love on people. I want you to go into the day looking to serve people, not warring against them or striving with them like, oh, my client's crazy. Might as well say God's kids are crazy, you know, because there's times that I've been crazy and I need someone to have a little bit of grace with me. So for whenever we're serving our clients, let's have the heart that these are God's kids. Let's have the heart that there is times to where we've probably been worse than they're probably being, and that out of grace and out of compassion, they're just in a bad suffering state, and maybe we can help alleviate their pain. So we were all born with potential. You know, each one of us. There was a guy last week, and I almost don't even want to tell you the story, but there was a guy named Tommy. Tommy's over here passed out in the grass, and Tommy's a homeless guy. And so I had a pretty important business phone call, and I like to walk when I talk. And so I'm making my lap by Vanderbilt, and I'm talking about, you know, working together in partnership. And I happen to notice on my side is that Tommy's laying in the grass. I didn't know his name at the time. And as I'm walking, I felt like the Lord is whispering to me, you know, whoever offers up a cup of cold water, my name, you know, whatever you do, the least of these. And so what I want our heart at Scout to be, no matter if they can buy a house, I don't even care if they can get pre-approved. I want us to have a heart to notice God's kids. And as I was sitting there, I said, Tommy, and I kind of woke him up just to make sure he was alive. And he was in rough shape. Got him some food, got him some water, and I got a chance to talk to him. And I thought, man, Tommy was a little kid at some point in time who was laughing and giggling and playing with his parents. Tommy was a little kid in kindergarten, I'm sure, that was playing on the playground. Somewhere along the way, Tommy lost his way. And I got to thinking, man, if my sons ever get in this shape, I hope that one of their brothers or sisters brings some heart and they hear God lead them. I don't want to say that to give me any credit. I want to impress a point that we are in the service-based industry. We are here to serve. So I think that a lot of times in our industry, we lose sight that we are in the service-based industry to serve people. No matter if they can buy a house, no matter if they qualify or don't qualify, no matter if they're laying in the grass passed out or not, when we go to work, we are looking to add value to people, no matter what that is. And I really want to encourage this point because we live in probably one of the coolest cities in the world, in my opinion. And we have a very, very, very popular industry that there's a lot of rewards to that, but there becomes a lack of servanthood a lot of times whenever we're trying to promote self. My ask in my hopeful leadership for our company is that we have the right heart disposition. And when we engage in children of God and we're serving other children of God, that He's going to be proud of us. That we are entering into the day open-handed, saying, Lord, who do you want to bring into my life today? Whether they are qualified or they're not qualified, whether they are homeowner or not, who do you want to bring in? I want to be found a faithful servant. So I believe that if we want to be faithful of many things, we have to be faithful of a few things. And sometimes the few things may not qualify, right? Sometimes the few things may not be an awesome, big, nice, sexy client. I think that God is watching, and I think that it's very important for us to say, whatever it is that you bring in my life today, whoever it is that I have an encounter with, I want to make sure that I am aware, I'm in tune, I am antennas up, that this is not a mistake. I have been learned. This has been like top of mind for me in the week or two. Nothing, no matter who I stand with in line, at the coffee shop, no matter who's waiting for lunch, and you got 30-minute wait, whoever's waiting in lunch, this is not an accident that they're here. Like, there is no accidents. And I think that we have to have our antennas up and saying, okay, you know what? There is something about this person standing beside me. There's something about this encounter. It may not be for now. Sometimes you sow seeds. Sometimes you do things. It's like, it's not working out in the time that I want it to work out. What the heck? it's not up to us to determine how fast the seed of an apple produces apples, right? It's going to take as long as it's going to take. But I want us to be really faithful about sowing seeds, being highly aware that there are people around us. God has shown me, like, there's people that I've connected with well over a year ago. There's like, I could have never guessed that when I met that person that would be happening right now. I mean, the attorney that we just hired to do some of our trademark stuff came from a referral from years ago. It's like, man, we needed this person at the right time. All of a sudden, there they are. So I just want to encourage you, be faithful in sowing the seeds and have your antenna that nothing is an accident. And you, as a real estate agent, you don't sell houses. You are a service provider, okay? So what's your capacity? We all have different capacities. I laughingly tell my wife, Brave is as smart as they come. He is really, really, really intelligent. Lucy, she's going to be riding the short bus if we're not careful. Yeah, I'm totally being funny about that. But we all have different capacities and different skill sets. So for our life, we want to grow our capacity. I don't believe it's something that is set in stone. Sometimes in our life, whether that's in high school or college, or when we got married or got our first job, somewhere along the way, we just kind of like draw this line in the sand and like, this is good enough. Right here, this is good enough. What I found is that we can commit to a life of constant improvement. We can expand our capacity. So when we talk about business being a spiritual game, expanding our capacity is, in a sense, you have more resources and capabilities to add more value to more people. And so that's part two of how the game is played. So simply is you increase your capacity, you expand your value. There are insights and distinctions that I had in the listing presentation that I went to last week, and I thought, if I would have not have gone to that conference about 2 years ago, there was one specific thing that I've never brought up in a listing presentation that came up, and I drew upon this resource that I learned 2 years prior at a conference. And I thought, you never know when you're going to need a tool, and when you're in a moment that's going to make or break the win or loss in the relationship. So what I want to be clear about is when I go through the day, my mentality is about being children of God. We're serving children of God. I want to be open-handed. I'm a service provider, but I'm also wanting to grow and learn, resourcing myself because I never know when I'm going to need it. And the third thing is sow seeds. So are you a service provider? Are you growing? And are you sowing? Those would be the three things as you enter in each day. You need to have this heart disposition. So James Allen, years ago, he wrote a famous book called As a Man Thinketh. And he said, men do not attract that which they want. They attract that which they are. So in our life, we want goals. We write on our goals. I want to sell this many houses. We write on our goals. I want to make this amount of money. You don't attract those clients just because you want it. You attract them by who you are. And so if you're not attracting the amount of people, if you're not attracting the type of people, you are getting who you are. So it's a feedback loop of you must become more, you must become better, you must become more resourced. Albert Einstein, smart guy, says, try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. So if you become valuable, you will always receive success. If you become successful, you may not be valuable. And so I think that that's why a large portion of clients do not work with the agent that they worked with before. 89% of people do not work with the same agent they worked with last time. I think that's a big telling number. Because if you deliver the value at the level that blew them away, they're like, oh my gosh, that was unbelievable. You're my agent in the agent community. Like, I want to be your realtor for life. I want to be your realtor for life. Oh my gosh. The chances are only 10% of people are going to reuse you again. And the chance that you're the realtor for life is highly, 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 highly improbable. If you actually want a long-term relationship with someone, you better blow the socks off of them when they leave that encounter. They're like, man, what I got and what I paid, or what I got and what I gave was two totally different things. Not only will they use you more than 90% of the time, they will then advocate and advocate and advocate and advocate. In a way, I believe that our business model is a way to defer marketing dollars back into the universe to where we have a tribe of advocates who are beating our drum. right? And then lastly, as I mentioned in Maslow, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. So as we are looking to add more value, do you have more capabilities and capacities to solve people's problems? I really, really, really strongly believe in the importance of getting feedback from customers and actually asking them, take the gloves off and tell me what could be better. I made the mistake of doing this on Facebook one time. And I actually did not get comments. I didn't get a lot of comments. Got a lot of personal messages. And then as I would encounter and meet with people one-on-one, and like I had a guy in particular, we actually just sold his house last week. I had a guy in particular who goes, yeah, man, if I'm being honest with you, me and my wife are a little frustrated about the last time we closed with you. We felt like we got taken advantage of, if I'm being honest. I was like, what? I was like, man, I hate to say that, or I hate you're saying that because we're such good friends. He's like, yeah, but you asked, I'm telling you. What you did and what we paid, there's no justification for it, man. There's just not. I don't care what you say. And I'm trying to be a friend. You asked for the feedback. I'm giving you straight up feedback. So we just sold his house, and he is a raving fan, and he's very excited now. But it took, I had close to about 200 people that I personally talked to. Give me feedback. I want to hear. I want to hear. I mean, I was like on a mission. I want to hear what the customers think. I want to hear what you feel. I want to hear what you say. I want to know. And a lot of times you don't ask, people don't go and say, tell me what's flawed. Tell me what's the worst. Tell me how I could get better. It's just not in our nature. Like, we would rather just live in obscurity and not know our flaws than to have someone's like, okay, you want to know? I'll tell you why you don't look very good. You're going bald right here, Jonathan, or whatever the story is. Like getting feedback. You have to have an outsider's perspective to give you feedback on what's connecting and what's not connecting. If you truly, truly are committed to serve your customer at the deepest level, if you're truly committed to add value to your customer at the deepest level, you have to have feedback. You have to pursue it, because typically only the time that you ever get feedback is either fake feedback or the best feedback from your clients. Oh, you're so great. We appreciate you, girl. You're awesome. Like, I think that there's some genuineness to that, but they're never going to say, but I want to tell you something really bad. Tell you something I wish was different. Or you have someone who's just like, you know what? We're never going to work with this agent again. I'm just going to absolutely scorched earth them and tell them everything I think about them and just blow this up. Typically, you have one extreme or the other. Your friends who love you, people who you feel like you've had a good transaction with, it's really, really, really important to ask for that constructive feedback. If you're not that brave, there's a softer method. All of us have databases. And in that database, there are probably a very large number of people who did not use you to buy their last house. If I'm looking through my database, I would be shocked if 80% of the people or more did not buy a house with another realtor. It's just, the chances of someone working with you are somewhat slim because there are so many options. And that's why communicating your benefit and your unique value is so, so, so important. So because they have such a large number or because you probably have a large number of people in your database who did not work with you, you can go to them and spend time with them at lunch. I'm like, hey, I got a question with you. When you bought your last house, what's a couple things that worked really well that you loved, that you thought was just awesome? What do you wish was different? So you'll start to hear people's feedback about someone else, and that starts to give you clues like, ooh, I emulate that as well. I remember one time I called a past client, and this happened, and I said, give me feedback. And they said, we found all our houses, and I just don't feel like you really did the work. I was like, what? I set you up an auto notification. They didn't like the auto notification. And I said, what? You found all the houses, I'll send them to you. We were looking through them. You never told us which ones you would go look at. We were giving you the addresses to go show. I mean, like, anybody could have shown us and unlocked the doors. Oh, crud. Really? And I started to ask other people that I did not work with, that were in my sphere of influence, if you had to change one thing about your agent when you bought your house, what would it be? One of the most common things that I heard feedback on was, we found our house, not our agent. We found our house. And so I think that it's really important to profile your buyer up front, and it's really important to search those properties out and make meaningful recommendations. As they start to give you a list of houses that they like, the first thing that you should do is eliminate a couple of them. The second thing you should do is add some to it. Because if you have asked questions throughout the buyer consultation, there are things that you should have learned along the way that as they say, "Ooh, can we go see this house? I think this is one we should not look at because I heard you say this house does not match. There's some houses that you missed that you did not say that you want to see. I heard you say this, so I want to bring these to your attention." So it's very important for us to help clients find their house versus we just automatically send it to them. So that's an important thing on feedback. And when we talk about if the only tool that you have is a hammer, then every problem is a nail. We have to be more resourced. And one of the ways we do that is through feedback. So here's something that I think that really relates to your life improves, your business improves. And when your business improves, your life improves. So in a better business, you have to become a better person. I literally had this thought last night as I'm eating this arugula, spinach, hibiscus salad or whatever. It's like all this healthy stuff. As I was eating, and I thought, I have such a passion for our work, and the only thing that gets in my way is I get tired and have a loss of energy. If I want to have a stronger motor and to go, I need to be eating better. If I want to have a stronger motor to be able to serve my customers, I need to have a better physiology. And so when you improve your life based on what you're eating or you're doing, your business will get better because you have a stronger motor. You're not like, "Oh man, I'm a little tired, I'm a little sluggish. I got to, my caffeine high is crashing, or got a lot of sugar in my body." Versus, no, I'm focused on my physiology. I've got a stronger motor because I want to serve people better. I want to be more clear-minded. I want to be on top of my game. And so whatever your personal life that needs to be improved to make your business improved, those two things are in total symbiotic balance with one another. And so sometimes you just don't feel like a Monday morning. Well, that really sucks if I'm your client. Your client does not deserve for you to not feel like a Monday morning. Like, your client needs you to show up and over deliver them. And typically that's going to happen based on what you did on Sunday, right? And how we have prepared our body, prepared our mind, prepared our spirit, prepared our heart to enter into the day. Like, I hope that my service, like whoever serves me in whatever capacity, I hope that they don't come to work like, "What can I get out of my clients today? Really want to see how I can get as much out of my clients as I possibly can," versus, "I'm going to work. What can I give my clients today? I want to go into this day and I'm looking for someone to contribute to. And I just happen to be the lucky guy that they have been obsessing about," right? So whenever we think about your business and your life, I want to give you this context, because what we do outside of work really matters inside our work, and what we do inside our work matters outside of our work. So there's 7 truths about our human life value. The first truth is you are your greatest asset. There is a verse, and I think it's somewhere in this slide, in Proverbs. Solomon, the wisest man in the world, once said, "Buy wisdom, buy knowledge." And he like using the word actually purchase, like buy it. So if you're your greatest asset, there's a lot of tips out there about how to invest in real estate, how to invest in the stock market, how to buy assets, buy gold, buy Bitcoin, whatever the fad is. You are your greatest asset. You are the vehicle in which you should be investing into. And so that comes from your mind, that comes in your time, that comes in your physiology. There are so many things that this comes into play, but I want to plant this seed because how you expand your capacity is the number one revenue generator that you will ever have in your entire life, period. Number 2, to have more, you have to be more. Specifically, be more valuable to other people. So if there's something in your life you're like, this is not enough, in a sense, there is a soul craving. There's something inside your soul is like, "Oh, I want more." I think that there's sometimes you got to check yourself, but I think in a large part, that's something that's telling you, hey, if you want more, there's more that you can give. And if you have like my desire for more, let's say that it's an amazing vacation with your family. If your desire is for that, the first thought would be, okay, well, what would I have to do? Who would I have to become? What would I have to contribute to actually be able to take that amazing vacation? We had a client that I recently just showed a house, and his max budget started off at 1.4 million. And that was about 10 months ago. And then it creeped up to 1.5. And then it creeped up to 1.6. And finally, it was pretty frustrating because he kept making offers on houses. And he was like, man, tell me what we should do. And I said, well, I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but I am going to give you options. How about that? Option one is you can become content. Be more content. Like your standard, are there houses out there? Absolutely. So say yes to the best one in your budget. So be more content. But what you want and what you can afford are two different things. You see pictures on Instagram and Facebook or whatever you're seeing, and the market at that price is not giving you that. You're not going to have like waterfalls and hot tubs and, all the backdoor or backyard patio. Like, you're not getting all of that in this location at that price point. It's just not going to happen. Number two, you have to find, what I told him, I said, find a way to afford more. He's like, man, it's our max budget. And I said, you're self-employed. What do you mean it's your max budget? I said, every $100,000 in debt is $500 a month. You're telling me that there is no way possible that you could not find a way to earn $500 more a month. You're self-employed. Like, there is no ceiling on you, period. We're under contract at 1.8. I think. Are they under contract yet? I don't want to. We're on Facebook Live. So anyhow, I think they're in a contract at 1.8. But he's like, okay, if I find a way to make $1,000 more a month selling insurance, okay, these are renewals. Oh, okay, well then I should be able to afford this. Well, that was what the solution is. So to have more, you have to be more. To be more, he had to go out there and actually sell, right? So he could just take it easy and like, this is how much I make every year. I'm just going to enjoy my golf, enjoy my work-life balance versus I'm going to get out there and hustle and grind and push this ceiling up, right? Number three, increasing your life value gives you more resources to offer others. So if you become more valuable, you have more to give. Number four, human life value is a combination of knowledge, skills, abilities, ideas, time, experience, and persistence. So just think about somebody, if they were to serve you and they're giving you their time, that's valuable. But they also are really wise and intuitive about how to run bit. Well, that's invaluable. Maybe they spend some money on you. Well, that's valuable. They got some ideas, well, that's valuable. In a sense, value comes when you compile and combine these different things. And then you, in a sense, bundle up your knowledge, skills, abilities, ideas, relationships, and then you give that away to someone. So when we don't sell houses, we are delivering value, and value is comprised of these different things. So what I said earlier, I love about real estate gives you immediate feedback. There has been seasons to where I have gotten skunked on a listing presentation and I was up against someone else because I lacked the skill. There were times to where I failed to price a house and it just was not appraised, and not even in a normal market. There was times where I got feedback where I did not have the strongest relationship. Dadgummit, I can't believe they used somebody else. What the heck? Take it for what it's worth. That means that they don't have a strong relationship with you and they did not perceive you as being the most valuable option for them. Instead of getting mad, like, I thought we were friends. That's guilt. That's not a healthy emotion of like, hey, I want to give all my sphere of influence guilt. I want them to all feel guilty not using me. That is not the appropriate emotion for your friends to have, right? Feedback on value. So when I said it's a privilege for someone to work with you, that relationship feedback loop, man, if I get chosen and somebody wants to work, man, that's awesome. That means I've demonstrated value or they perceive value. I have a strong connection with them. I'm their number one slot as they think about real estate. If someone does not choose you and chooses someone else, get better. Don't cry about it. Get better. So that would be the number four thing. Number five is the most important source of your wealth is your value. So we kind of already touched that. Number 6 is applied. So sometimes people can be really valuable, but they don't actually apply it. Applied human life value is the source of all money, prosperity, and progress and fulfillment. I'll even go a step farther than this. If you have the ability to add value to someone's life, and you do not communicate to them that you have the ability to add value to their life, I find that to be like almost like morally irreprehensible. Like you have a moral responsibility to people. I have a need right now. We are looking for a specific insurance policy, and I'm literally like looking through. I'm like, who of my friends could actually have this policy? I don't know. I'm looking for this insurance policy. So I'm like cold calling around last week looking for this particular type of policy. And I'm thinking, if one of my friends actually could service this need, I'm really ticked at them right now because they haven't told me about it. In a way, like when you look at all your Facebook friends or your Instagram friends, do they know how you can uniquely add value to their life? And so when I say applied human life value, I would go a step farther. Like you have a moral responsibility to communicate to everyone, this is how I can serve you. I'm not going to come and wear you out and ask for business. I just want you to know very directly, very clearly that I have the ability to do this on your behalf when that time is right. Okay? And the last is number 7. Increasing your capacity to contribute to others is going to increase your earning potential. Remember earlier whenever I said that your number of transactions or the money that you've earned is in a sense a scoreboard? I don't want to overly elevate money and transactions, but I do think that it serves as a very, very useful tool in a sense, like getting on the scales of business and like, oh man, I shouldn't have eaten so much during Thanksgiving. Man, I got to work on this. It is a nice feedback loop to say people are voting for you. People are voting for you. Another one little side note, when we talked about the time that we give, there was a season in my career to where, man, I just can't sell any more houses. Like my time is max. Like I got no more time to do anything. Well, we all reserve the ability to get more efficient. And sometimes if we're maxed out on our time and selling houses, instead of trying to burn out, not have a work-life balance, or instead of just not taking any more deals, maybe you could become more efficient. And so I learned one of the ways that I could add more value to my clients is if I became more efficient, they became more efficient. If I didn't drag them all over town, they were saving their time. So what I did for myself is what I did for them. Does that make sense? And so I started to adopt this mindset. This is back in my previous company. I was never going to work with a buyer unless we had a buyer consultation, ever. Never going to even take a consultation if they were not pre-approved, ever. And the reason I did that is because there were some feedbacks that I had. There were some clients that I worked with. I'm like, dang it, I wasted so much time with them. I cannot believe that they actually could not get a loan when it was all said and done. Well, yeah, I just believed that they were pre-approved, and their stinking lender sent me a pre-approval letter, and I went with it just to find out they actually couldn't because they didn't fully underwrite them, and they were going more off stated income, and that was their friend. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna learn from this. I'm gonna make sure they're pre-approved through my lender. My lender knows that I don't even want to meet with them for an hour on a buyer consult if this person's not gonna be able to get a deal. I'm not gonna get it in the car and show them houses until we've had started off in a buyer consultation. Every hour in the office is going to save me 10 hours in the car. So when we talk about getting more valuable, sometimes it's getting more efficient. I am like trying to dial this in to become more efficient. When I'm showing houses, before we start off the day, hey, I don't want to spend more than 15 minutes in any house. We can always come back to your favorites. But I want to go ahead and set a time clock and keep us moving. Keep us moving. I remember I had a client one time, I don't know if they did it out of like their need for significance with themselves or not, but they just kept walking through the house like, oh man, why would they do this? Why would they do that? What's this? I'm like, if you're not buying it, walk out the door. Like, what is this walking around the house like pointing out everything that you don't like? But every house they would walk through and point out all the negative stuff. And we would spend 30 or 45 minutes in every house. They're just dogging it. I'm like, okay, this is a total waste of time. So I started to learn before I ever get in the house, When we go on this tour today, we've got a lot of houses. We're going to look at 10 or 15 houses. What my goal for us is to not spend more than 15 minutes in any house. I want us to move quickly through all of the homes. And then when we have time left, I'd like for us to potentially come back and review the best 2 or 3 that stood out. We never circle back around. Typically, they already knew which ones they liked. But I kept us moving through the ones that they did not like, and I kept the pace up, so that saved us time during the day. I would start to say, hey, if we look at houses, let's try to avoid traffic times. I know you like to look at houses when you get off work, but it's going to take us a lot longer over several days if we start to go look at houses in, from everywhere from Bellevue to Spring Hill and Mount Juliet and everywhere in between at 3 to 6 o'clock during rush hour. It's going to take us days. So I like to try to, is there any way you can take off work? Because if we can go like 9 a.m., we can hit it and not have any traffic and make the most use of our time. So I started trying to compress people, into time frames that were not traffic. That's good for them because they're not spreading out their decision making over 3 or 4 days sometimes. So you'll start to learn is like, if you don't have enough time, how could you become more efficient? How could you set well, they're just slow lookers. Are they slow lookers or are you not good at setting the expectation on the front end? So I want to set the expectation on the front end. My goal for us today is to be done by 3 o'clock. By 3 o'clock is going to have us in and out of houses no more than 15 minutes. And I'm just going to tell you now, when we're about 12 minutes in, I'm going to start to push us into the next house. And I've scheduled these ahead of time to keep us on pace. So after we've looked at everything, if you like something, we'll come back around and look at it again. Typically, we never come back around, but it kept them moving and it saved their time, and it actually helped them be better decision makers, right? So we're almost done with this section. Give me a couple more minutes and then we'll take a break. This is a verse that I was referring to. Buy truth, do not sell it. Buy wisdom and instruction and understanding. This is from Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived. And he's talking about the greatest investment that you can make is investing in yourself. The importance of buying wisdom and buying truth and buying understanding. So here's the principle that I want you to understand is the greatest investment that you ever can make is you. And I love, love, love our job and our industry because we get to see where there's weaknesses and where we need to invest in ourselves. Is it interpersonal communications? Is it overall business strategy? Is it client rapport building? Is it understanding of real estate? Is it understanding of negotiation? There's so many different points that we get better at. And then the last principle, and we'll take our break, is becoming more valuable enables you to offer more value to others. And so I hope that what we've covered this morning is really just focused on we are in the service industry. I wish we were called service providers more than real estate agents all day long, because service provider has to do with more of our heart. Real estate agent has to do with more of our function. And it's very difficult for us to divorce the two. And I think that if we led with heart, we led with our open-handedness and how we want to contribute, our clients would feel our impact in their lives. So what stood out to you in this first section before we take our break? 2 people, I just want to hear quick feedback or quick thoughts, quick questions. What comes to mind?
So question, you were talking about getting feedback from people and in my experience there were times when a client said, I want a house at least 3,000 square feet. And so that's what I put in the criteria when I did my search. And so came upon these things. And one day he sends me a house that he's seen on Zillow or some other source that is 2,800 square feet. This house appealed him so much. So I moved the criteria down, say to 25 to 28. And then in the end, when I asked him for feedback, he said, well, you sent me these houses that were, under the 3,000 feet, that, that was kind of a waste. And I said, well, let me explain to you the reason why I did that. And I explained to him that he had seen one that he liked was somewhat smaller. And okay. So, do you do that? I mean, when they see something that's slightly under, or do you expand and go a little bit above their criteria and a little bit below? Because some people are going to say, but don't want a fireplace or either want
Yeah.
to buy a house without a fireplace.
I got it. So there's three things that every buyer can change if they don't like what they're getting. Only three. And we're gonna cover this in the buyer day. There's your criteria, there's your location, and there's your price. And so when we have our meeting, again, we're going to train you on this. When we have our meeting, our buyer consult meeting, criteria, price, and location. In a sense, these determine your boundaries. What I want to do is I want to push everyone's criteria, price, and location as far as I possibly can. So when they tell me we don't want to spend more than 1.4, that was the house, the client that I was referring to earlier that Thomas knows about. I'm trying to push that to 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, not to earn more commission, but we are literally going to waste time if down the road you actually could have afforded more, you just didn't want to. I would rather look over the fence and say there's more options out there and you say no to it than for us to never have seen in the first place. So on the criteria, what I would have done in that scenario is I would have said, just so I hear you correctly, you do not want to look at if there was the perfect house that met your price, your location, perfect house, great updating, you would not even want to know that it exists on the market if it was 2,950 square feet. Well, no, I probably want to know that. 2,850? 2,750? We need to establish what is the basis in which you're like, there is no way, no how I will not live in a house under 2,500 square feet. Even if it's 2,499, I will not even look at it. Okay, great. So if you send me something that does not fit that criteria, how do you want me to respond to you? Because I have built a farm and this is my farm, this is my ranch. I got the fences up, do not get off my ranch. So if you email me anything under that predefined square footage, I will not show it to you unless you want to change your entire criteria. I'm not going to show a one-off, I'm going to show everything, right? One more feedback or question.
I really like the reminder that we're God's children and we're serving God's children. I think that sets your expectations for yourself and just, reframes your mind as to what you're doing for the day.
Definitely. Let's take a 5-minute break, and we're going to have Michelle spend some time with us. So 5-minute break.
I'm Michelle Smalling. I'm the director for Homes for Homes. And Jonathan and my husband Mike co-founded Homes for Homes 5 years ago. So Homes for Homes has been a part of the Scout DNA from the beginning. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what Homes for Homes is. Some of you know a lot about it and others of you may not know. So I thought I'd start at the beginning and just tell you who we are. Homes for Homes really was created with the real estate community in mind, to give a portion of your home sales to help families in need with housing. Our goals are, we sustain families around the world by giving them a quality home. Our goals are to keep families together, safe and healthy. And we've seen that really that home unit, that patch of land is the key to those things. We partner with local ministries on the ground in 4 countries, and they're faith-based ministries, because we feel that that gift of a home is a great opportunity for us to share the love of Christ with others. We allow community leaders to select those families because they know the individuals in their communities very, very well. They see the needs on a daily basis. And our ultimate goal is to transform an entire community one at a time. We're currently working in 4 countries: Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and Uganda. And strategically in those areas, we select the most vulnerable. A lot of times those are widows that are raising their children, or grandmothers that are raising their grandchildren. I thought you might like to see what some of our houses look like. In Guatemala, it's a concrete block home. And in Honduras, it's also a concrete block home. In Mexico, the houses are typically stucco. And then in Uganda, they're made of clay brick. And 2 things that you'll see in every community is that every home has a solid concrete floor and a solid roof. Because in all of those situations, we're raising people out of housing on dirt floors onto a concrete floor. Immediately improves their health, their sanitation as well. We do sanitation projects along with the homes. A lot of the homes will have pit latrines, or in the community, there will be pit latrines to also improve that sanitation. And then with the solid roof, we are protecting them against leaking and the weather elements decaying the house, and also taking away from their quality of life. As we build homes in these communities, one of our core values is we utilize local labor teams. So when you find a home through our ministry, you're not only providing that family a home, you're also providing fair wages to men in the community that want to work to earn a wage. And all of our teams are local teams. We source all of our resources locally, which is why the houses look different in each community. And it's to the style of what they're used to. And then, as I said before, local leaders select the families. This is Walter, our community leader in Uganda, and he selects each of the families there. Again, you're impacting Walter's family when you give, because he earns wages being our director there. You're impacting the community resource stores where we purchase all of the materials. Thought you might like to see a video of one of our workers in the community in Uganda, in Wollongong, and the impact that being a part of the Homes for Homes team has had for him. Here's his story.
My name is Oyet Moses. I am one of the builders working with Homes for Homes in Wollongong to build houses for people in my community. This work has really changed my life and the lives of my family. The money I've made has allowed me to farm more of my land, and I've been able to purchase more goats and cows. I've also been able to save up and buy a motorcycle. I use the motorcycle to get to work in the morning and I can use it to take my family to church on Sunday. During the day when I'm at work, I can rent it out and bring in more income for my family. I love that I get to help build homes for people in my community and also make a better life for my family. I'm so grateful for Homes for Home, and I pray that they continue to do this good work in our community.
In Woolagon alone, there are 27 men just like Moses that are building homes and helping to impact their community. So it's been neat to see how they, there we go, how they are taking what they've been giving and seizing that opportunity and using it to expand and grow for their family. Right now, we're serving in 8 communities, and since Homes for Homes has been founded, a little bit over 400 houses have been built. And so when you look at that impact of 400 homes, that's over 2,500 people that now have a home of their own that is a safe place for them and their children. And we're really grateful that Scout's been a part of that. One of the families impacted is here. One of the Scout homes is Alessandrina. Yes! She is in Woolagon, which is the community that you just saw in the video. And in that community, there were 103 families. This is the first community that from start to finish, every single family in that community is receiving a home. She's one of the 103. And 17 months ago, we started with the first house in that community. In December, we raised the money for each family to have a home. And in 3 weeks, the last house is being built in that community. So 18 months total, 103 houses. They are kicking butt over there building those houses, and I'm so excited. She's a widow, and her family, as her children grew, they just kind of abandoned her and left her on her own. She was living in mud hut with a thatched roof, and when Walter interviewed her about receiving this home, she said, you know, this home, number one, it brings me so much joy. To have this place that's mine. And I feel safe at night because I can lock my door. And then also she talked about how it restored dignity to her. You don't really think about the impact of on someone that's never had anything to receive the dignity, but just for most of the women there, again and again, we've heard from them about the safety of being able to lock their door and lock their windows at night. So we're really excited for her and that y'all were a part of that. $3,500 in each of our communities funds an entire home. And in the grand scheme of things, that's about $300 a month. And for $300 a month, you could fund personally a house each year. Right now, we know 160 families that have been identified in our communities that are ready and to receive homes. We just need the money. And Woolagon, as it finishes, we're moving to the next village, and there are 80 families there that are included in that number, and they're ready. The workers from Woolagon are going to get to continue with us, move to the next community, and build those houses because it's literally next door. So I'm excited for them that opportunity for wages will continue in that area. Here's the fun part, how you can be involved. Homes for Homes is a part of the DNA for Scout. And I'd love for you all as individuals, not only at the corporate level, but at the individual level, to get involved and consider making Homes for Homes part of your personal business model. We've got multiple companies across Nashville and other areas that not only does their company give, but on a page they give as individuals and work as a team to fund houses. Some of you have given consistently to fund houses on your own. And I just really would like to encourage you to do that. Also, we need your help in sharing about Homes for Homes with other individuals that are in your circle of influence. If you work with a certain mortgage lender, if you work with builders, individuals in the real estate community, we would love to have you help us share about Homes for Homes and get them involved. I'm happy to meet with them. If you want to do a joint call, love to do that as well. Some people love to go and want to see it first before they really get involved, or when they're involved, they want to see it. We're going to Honduras in September, and you can see the houses there built alongside one of our local teams for a couple days. We're going in September. And then also, we're outside of COVID. We've got, we're going back to a little bit of normalcy. And we're going to have a fundraising dinner November 2nd at 1410 down in the Nations. You can help with that, with helping us get table sponsors or other underwriters. I'd love for your help with that. For Scout, I've created a funding page for you all where you can give as a team. And I would love if there's someone outside of Jonathan that would be the Scout champion, basically, and say, hey, I want to be the person that encourages members of our team to give to Homes for Homes. Jonathan's always going to encourage everyone to be generous. I want to encourage you to be generous to Homes for Homes and help us with what we're doing. And if you want to be kind of that point person that says, yeah, I'm going to be the cheerleader that really comes around, just let me know. You know, for $3,500 as a team, it wouldn't take very long for you all to get to the point where you're consistently funding homes as a part of that. I go to a church in Brentwood, and about 8 weeks ago, we had a big charge about funding for and lessons on generosity. And in 30 days, I saw that community give $2.4 million, which is a massive number, but there was a very specific need. And there weren't a lot of large gifts. Everybody just gave a portion, and really we all worked together. The same thing can happen here. As individuals, you all can work together and give a portion of what you earn from housing and your love for housing and extend it to someone who could never provide that type of house for themselves. And so I just really want to encourage you to live generously, look for ways to work as a team for that to happen, and to make Homes for Homes a part of your personal business model. If you're not following us, if you want to learn more, our website, Instagram, and Facebook are there. We every week are posting photos of families who've received homes. Take those, share those on your pages, share them with your clients about what's going on there. And then if you want to take it to the next level, or you have any other questions about ways to get involved, just shoot me an email or text. Misty's got my number in here. Many of you do as well, but I'd love to talk to you about ways that we can help provide more houses for families. Do y'all have any questions?
How many spots on the September trip?
We probably have 15 spots left.
Okay.
That trip is $1,800. That's all inclusive, like literally everything. And you stay in a decent hotel that has air conditioning and hot water, which is huge for a mission trip, and some of the best coffee you will ever drink.
Are you only in a specific country or area, or are you worldwide? Do you do anything in the United States?
We don't do anything in the United States, particularly because it's a numbers game. What we found is in the communities here in Nashville and surrounding in the U.S., Habitat for Humanity is doing a great job. If you want to be involved locally, I would recommend that. We don't need to reinvent the wheel there, but when we go to these communities where we serve, for $3,500, we can literally change someone's life. You build a house here, it's going to be $60,000 minimum for most of those habitat projects. And the reason strategically we're in these 4 communities is because we have partners that we know and trust, which is very important when you're in third world type communities. For us, we would prefer to go deeper in those communities and continue to spread where we have those strong teams at this point, rather than just go larger.
And what are the 3 others besides Honduras?
Guatemala, Mexico, and Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing, and I'd love to get coffee with you sometime, just to,
Great.
I've got a ton of questions and stuff I'd like to talk to you about.
Perfect.
But first things that come to mind, like, is it on family land where you're building these? Do you help purchase the land, or is it rented property?
Great question.
What's the long-term impact there? Like, if it's rented land, to keep that single mom or whatever in that home?
It's a great question. We only build homes on land that we have documentation legally that the person receiving the home owns the land. So for instance, in the family land situation, we will gather the local community leaders together. They will all sign a legal document that states this is this woman's land. No one will take it from her. We will protect her from that. In the city areas where we work, they file legal deeds for those. We don't allow any rented situations at all. And in communities like Honduras and Guatemala, where it's generational land, the family will get together and sign something that says this person is receiving this portion of family land. Because that's exactly right. The last thing we want to do is build a house for someone, especially a widow, give her the excitement of that, and then have a rogue family member come in and say, no, that's actually mine, and take that from her. And so it's been great. Another reason why we stay intentional in those communities, because we've developed relationships with those community leaders to make sure that's the case. Great question.
I know, Jonathan, we used to have a portion, set portion come out of our paycheck before we even receive our commission check. So I know that's stopped, but are we working on doing that? Because to me, that's the easiest way.
It was an accounting nightmare.
It's very true.
It is? Okay. So just go direct then rather than doing that.
Yeah, she's talking about individually. We do take a portion out that we started to earmark, but we can ask Brian. It was just an accounting nightmare. Like, okay, you don't want to do it this time. You want to do it last time. It's like, okay, you're 150 in this time. You're 50 next. It was just,
yes,
it was hard.
That Scout's the only office that we've ever had to do that. We've got multiple real estate agencies that do it on the page. And what they'll do is their champion at the end of each month will say, okay, guys, we had a great month. Don't forget to go to the Homes for Homes website page and donate a portion of your closings.
Yeah, you want it legally to come from you anyways, because it's a CPA's worst nightmare when you're trying to show them how you donated to this, but it came out of your check before. And
yeah, I think it would be, but yes, but
It was just easy for me.
it's real, it's real easy.
It was just I didn't even see the money and it went straight to you and I didn't have to.
Exactly.
But
No, and yeah, and no, I get it. And honestly, that's easier for us because it's one check and there you go. But anyway, did you have a question? No. Okay.
One of the neat things about this is just the opportunity to share with our customers that they can be part of this as well. And to have a mission that's bigger than myself, that's affecting people outside of myself, there's a lot of people that will resonate with that. And there's not a lot of organizations that have something like that to really touch somebody's heart, that we're doing good beyond what is happening for you and for me outside of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome.
I typically, a week after a close, I send a handwritten note to my client and I put the little Homes for Homes thank you note in it.
Awesome.
And no, I don't know. No one's ever really commented about it, but in some ways I want to say, hey, thanks again for closing. Also, a portion of my commission went to Homes for Homes, here's a blurb on what they do. Because I want to be one of the first ones to give them email on their address. It's another touch point for me. And it is sending them this info and website on Homes for Homes. So
Exactly.
if anyone wants to use that, go for it.
That's super helpful. We've actually had 2 clients in the past from other, I never know the names of individuals that you all close homes on as to whether they've given, but I know 2 specifically that have come back that had large homes and donated entire houses later that year because of the impact that had. So you sharing with your clients is super helpful for us. And Tracy's got a great method for doing that. So I would encourage that as well.
John and I had talked about kind of to involve cut. We have not done this from a marketing standpoint. This is a fresh conversation, but let's say that for talking purposes, we were to put in $125 or $150 per house. That's about 24 scout closings to build a house. And so from a client communication standpoint, if you said, okay, this is how much I feel comfortable being a part of this, I'm gonna start to communicate that to my clients. I'm also gonna communicate to my friends, like, hey, you're number 7 of 24, you're number 8 of 24. You know, you get like a painting and it's like you're 8 of 24,
Yeah.
you're 9 of 24, you're 10 of 24. I only got, this many more. My goal this year is to build a house. Your referrals will be appreciated because every time I sell, I get to build. You kind of like showing them your progression. A lot of times once you close on a house, there's not a lot of reason to talk to the customer. And so this kind of gives you a reason to talk to the customer maybe throughout the year.
In addition, if you want to do something like Jonathan has said, you can create on our website your own page that could be Misty's page. And if you set a goal, hey, I'm going to build a house this year, 3,500, then you can, and the page could be give.homesforhomes.org/Misty or whoever. And then again, you can send your clients back to that exact page. Hey, look at our progress. Here's where we are. And I have a realtor in Ohio that actually does that, and her title company donates for each closing on her page. And then she sends the clients back to that page to show them, hey, I donated, your closing company donated. So that's another touch point as well. If you have contacts in the real estate world that are not in Nashville, we would love to not be in Nashville and grow Homes for Homes outside of our community. So please feel free to reach out to me about that as well. And contact me and we'll grab coffee. That'd be great. Thank y'all so much for your time today and appreciate it.
Peter started a nonprofit in Haiti, and so y'all should talk about what he did in Haiti.
Great.
I'll connect y'all with that. Via text.
Thank you.
I do like a good text message.
All right.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Take your
Y'all have a good day.
Take your cell phone. You will want this.
Maybe I do. Maybe I don't.
Y'all have a good day.
All right. Michelle has pretty much single-handedly run Homes for Homes since day one. She should never even include Mike and I in the conversation about the impact of Homes for Homes. I mean, she really has been the heartbeat and driver behind that since day one, and I just really appreciate her giftedness for show. All right. So in this second half, I wanted to just finish up something real quick that wait, you can't even see it. We talked about business being a spiritual game, and we talked about how we have to become more valuable. We talked about phase 2 is adding that value to as many people as we possibly can. The last phase was receiving value. And I know that whenever we goal set and whenever we think about building our business, that is a nonprofit. Scout is not a nonprofit. Homes for Homes is about not making any money. We have to make money, and we are the beneficiaries of being in an environment to where we can produce a lot of money. We can produce a great income and a great life.
Therefore, we get the opportunity to be beneficial into other people's lives. So when we talk about receive value, that was the third part of the equation of we become more valuable, we give value, then we receive something in return. There's some things I want you to understand. The first is a principle that people only exchange money for things that they value receiving more than the value of what they're giving up. So whenever I bought a computer, like I think most people in here have their computers or a cell phone. Our computers say they're $1,500 or our cell phones $800 or whatever they are. We gladly gave Apple $1,500 for our computer or our $800 for our cell phone. Gladly. I mean, like, no doubt about it. I'm paying for it because we felt, based on what we know about an iPhone, based on what we know about a laptop, is the ability to receive $1,500 in return. It's worth way more than $1,500 to me. In a sense, they could have charged me $5,000 and I'm still going to buy this thing because of what I received in value. So there's a principle that people only give away money whenever they receive something greater than what they gave away. So whenever we are in an industry that talks about clients for life, I think that it's really important to lean in this principle that we have to be really good at giving away more than what we receive. Otherwise, people are going to say, not doing that anymore. Have you ever been to a restaurant? We actually had a friend last week who asked if Karen and I would go to dinner. And the restaurant that they asked us to go to is relatively new here in Nashville, and they have a Michelin star rated chef. So out of intrigue, when they first opened, we went and we wanted to try this place out. And it was called Yolan. It's downtown, and we were very excited. And the food was good, but when the bill came, it was like, I ain't never eating here again. Ain't no way. Like, it was just not worth it. And then there's other times that we've had amazing dinners and we spent a lot of money and we still felt like the experience, the wait, the celebration of the event, it was so worth it that we have no grievance of going back, over and over and over. So whenever we talk about the cost benefit analysis of something, that's what our customers are doing. They're constantly measuring, is what I'm paying, is it worth it? So I just want to set this as a principle, is that people only write a check or people only spend money when what they receive is more valuable than what they paid. If they happen to get suckered one time and they gave more than they received, they're not going to do it again. That's why 89% of people do not use the same agent they used the last time they sold the house. So this whole client for life thing is only going to happen whenever there is a disproportionate exchange of value, where you deliver, in a sense, you over-deliver more than you took. So here's a framework that I hope it sits in for you. Value and cost, these two things are mutually exclusive. They are not the same thing. The value, we've talked a lot about value. Value is your capability to benefit your customer's life. So what I've been trying to communicate strongly this morning is the importance of adding value, becoming more valuable to other people's lives. So the cost is a different thing. Your cost is what you decide to charge someone based on your perceived value. So I found it weird. My dad was a broker in the 70s and 80s. I found it weird to have a cost value structure that literally was 50 years old. I remember I went to my dad and my dad said, yeah, this is the way it's always been done. I felt like that was weird. I felt like in every industry in the world, there has been innovation around the relationship of cost and value. And I believe that our industry, in a sense, is one of the final industries to go through a renovation of the cost value structure. So your value and cost are mutually beneficial. I've heard it said that people say, well, I'm worth more. I'm worth it. Here's what I want you to understand is your worth, it's the intrinsic value that the customer assigns to your service. So we as service providers never determine our worth. We as service providers determine our cost, for sure. We as service providers offer our value, for sure. But the customer has to look at what we bring to the table and they assign worth. This is a very, very, very important distinction for you to understand. intrinsic value, like sticks and bricks, houses are extrinsic values. You take a house in Belmead and you put it out in the Mojave Desert, it is not worth what it was in Belmead. Well, look at it, the price per square, it don't matter. It's in the Mojave Desert. There's not even like water source out here. So whenever you take an extrinsic value of something and you displace it, the value structure changes immediately. But when we talk about, we're children of God, serving children of God, we have an intrinsic value that we are offering to give to people. And so whenever the world is looking at Skip and at Tracy and at Dawson or Peter, they're looking at you, whether that's at a lunch one-on-one, whether that's an event, whether that's online, however they are experiencing you, they have to immediately and quickly recognize that you're worth it. So here's the question: are you worth it? For me, I started to really wrestle with how can I make it easy and quickly for someone to recognize you're worth it. So if you want to earn new clients, add on, if you want to earn more clients and you want to build a business for life, this is not just a one and done. This is not a quick hit. If you actually want to have something into the future, if you want to earn new clients into the future, your client, must easily and quickly recognize that you give them more value than they pay for you. So back to our principle, people only give away dollar bills if they perceive what they're receiving is more valuable than what they gave you. And if what they received is more valuable than what they gave you, they're going to refer, they're going to reuse. But if it's not in alignment, they're not going to come back and they're not going to tell anybody else. So this idea of worth, I just want you to understand, this only comes from your customer. They decide if you're worth it. And that's probably going to happen a couple weeks or a month after the transaction. As they kind of sit in, they're going to say, I wouldn't advocate for Misty, or I would advocate for Misty. Like, they determine whether or not there'll be advocacy. Here's a takeaway. Your worth in the marketplace is determined by how much you give in value versus what you take in compensation. So there's 3 principles I want you to understand. Cost and value are mutually exclusive. That was number 1. Number 2 is charging more does not make you worth more. And charging less does not make you worth less. So I'm trying to break a paradigm that the industry has here. And because I know that it's so commonplace to feel that we're worth more. What I made a resolution is I want to make sure that whenever I have an encounter, I have a conversation, someone catches wind of what I do, that they're like, that's in my family's best interest. Yes, immediately and quickly, that is something that easily is recognizable. So whenever that happens, I know that I'm playing a longer game. And it doesn't have to be a long game 10 years from now. A long game can be 6 months or 12 months from now. There is something to sowing seeds into your future self. And sometimes you're going to have to network and lead generate and prospect and have a lot of time and conversations, versus if I live a little bit of meat on the bone, they're going to go have a lot of conversations for me. And the best referrals, the word of mouth referrals. You can go out there and tell someone how great you are, but it makes it a whole lot of difference if they're out there telling someone how great you are. Testimonials are the ultimate thing. So in the past, I think that I had the strongest relationship in some of the closings that I had, and that's why I was selected. I'm experiencing now that as leads are coming in, there is a determination based on value more so than relationship. I would rather become valuable than versus being known. And so a lot of times our industry wants to be known. I think that's not wrong. I think that there's better. What's better is to be valuable in the marketplace than to be known based on your value, right? So we talked about receiving value. I think from a spiritual standpoint, there may be one more nuance that I would like to share with you, and that's your sole purpose. Your sole purpose is the purpose of your existence. And I talked about earlier how I love nothing more than to watch my kids play well together. Nothing drives me crazy more than my kids not playing well together. And I have to think that God feels the same way when his kids play well together. Whenever my son returns good. And I hear my kids saying, you forgive me, even though there was an infringement, man, that makes me happy. Whenever oh man, you deserve it, but you're being gracious, man, that really makes me feel good. So I got to think that God, in a sense, has a spiritual economy as well. When we think about our sole purpose, the reason for our existence, that is the only way that we will ever have fulfillment, meaning, and purpose in our life. So here's two frames that I want to give you. The first is when you fully tap into creating value for others, you begin to fulfill your soul's purpose and tap into deeper levels of meaning and fulfillment. There is something about, man, I really, really feel like I did a great job by these customers. I really feel like I contributed great value for them. Man, I really am proud of the effort in which I gave them. Man, I really labored on their behalf. And I feel like whether or not they recognize it or not, that's not the point. I feel like God's proud. I feel like I can be proud of what I gave. The second frame is this idea that when you start becoming all you were born to be and live your soul's purpose, every resource from life becomes available to fulfill your mission. It's almost like once you decide I'm here to be about something bigger than myself, it's almost like our Creator and the universe is like, okay, I'm going to bring you more opportunities. But as long as you're looking to take from the earth and take from others, those opportunities become very restricted, and it starts to become a little bit harder, I have found, to basically build a great business. And so I got to believe that sometimes whenever you're moving out of the natural and what's seen and moving out of the physical of what is experienced, and you start to move into the spiritual and you start to move into the supernatural and you start to sow seeds into that, it's like, wow, taking care of people in a very honorable way and really working, like when I read this book or I go to this conference or I take this course, by enriching myself, I hope that God sees that I'm becoming more equipped so I can give it away. I hope that whenever I serve my customer and I'm trying to over-deliver on their behalf, I'm proven to be a faithful steward and hopefully have more opportunities to add more value to more people. And so sometimes we are looking for more opportunities, but my challenge for you is to dig in and get deep in adding value to yourself and adding value to others, ultimately receiving value, ultimately moving towards your soul purpose. So my call to action for you is, the first thing is to adopt a mindset of responsibility. The responsibility, I like to break that word apart, response-able. Are you able to respond in the moment? So adopt a mindset of responsibility for your life. It would be very easy for some agents to say, I wasn't born and raised in Nashville. I don't have the greatest network. It'd be easier for other agents to say, well, I'm too young. My sphere of influence is not old enough to be able to buy houses. Because I'm too young, I don't have as many people that are going to be buying. Versus I'm too old, I'm too fill in the blank. We all have our own limiting beliefs in the things that are prohibiting us from being all we can. So take responsibility. Take responsibility for your life, take responsibility for your actions, and blaze your path. Number 2 is expand your capacity. We've talked about that by investing in yourself. Number 3 is become aware of your passions and desires and happiness. I really think that what you desire, a friend of mine the other day told me the verse about delight yourself in the Lord and He will give you the desires of your heart. And he challenged me. He said, Jonathan, the desire of your heart, where do you think that comes from? And for me, I was like, I want this. This is what and he said, what if, because you delight yourself in God and you want to do good things, you want to sow into the world, in the spirit world, maybe God actually plants in your desires. What if your desires can be trusted? And I thought that was so beautiful, because as we look to build our business, if you desire to grow your business, if you desire to serve more people, if you desire to sell more houses, if you desire to earn more money, make a living for your family, those are all really, really, really good things. And it's really, really, really important for you to get your desires, because I think there's a lot of virtue in that. So I think that being aware of your passions, be aware of your desires, be aware of your happiness is important, because it almost serves as clues for what's going to come next. The next thing is seek to add value to a larger amount of people. We all kind of had this idea about what is comfortable to us. We all have a comfort zone about what we will do and what we won't do. We all have friends that we rely upon, like who we will call early and first. But we're going to learn Thursday and Friday, entering into this week, about the importance of challenging our comfort zones in regards to prospecting. And there's going to be a lot of cold calling that we're going to be teaching. And so, like I told you earlier, is that financial planner that I was able to win 3. We've already listed 1 and got under contract, got the second one going live this week, and got a buyer coming in town in July. That is a cold call. That was from a 30-minute meeting from a cold call. And so prospecting and cold calling gets a little weird, but it makes it a whole lot easier whenever you have warm introductions and you have introductions from trusted sources as to be able to go into that meeting and say the purpose of this meeting and speaking to the benefit. So declaring the purpose of why you want to meet with them and speaking to the benefit for them and the benefit to their audience. That is a way that we can start to press our comfort zone. So when I talk about seeking to add value to a larger amount of people, the challenge is to expand your comfort zones. The challenge is to press beyond maybe what you would be comfortable doing. So we'll speak more to that later on this week on Thursday and Friday. But that is the call to action in this idea about value being the way to all your goals, value being the way to your dreams. You have to be the first giver. Make sense? So we're going to pivot to a business plan, but is there any parting comments before we move to business planning? Any questions, any thoughts, any comments? Saw some head nods from Tracy. Do what? All right. So I want you to think. We're gonna go for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to take a break, and then we'll come down the home stretch after that break. But I want to talk about building your business, and I think the first thing for us to adopt mentally is that we are all small business owners, and as a small business owner, we have to have partners to be able to run a successful company. I really wish that the industry was not so independent contractor driven, because it's a lonely road. And I think that if we started to view as an industry that we have to have partners, mortgage partners, title partners, insurance partners, brokerage partners, agent partners. I mean, there's always times in our career where we need help, where we're just on vacation, we need someone to cover for us, or we're sick and we just need someone to cover for us. It's easy to get put on the island mentally to where we feel like I'm in it to win it for myself, versus I have a tribe of people and there's some bit of reliance upon one another. Dawson, you had a listing presentation or meeting last week that you won the listing presentation, but Dawson calls me several months ago. He was out of town and needed somebody to go to a listing presentation. I was happy to do it because I view myself as a partner with Dawson. And Dawson was able to come back off vacation, and fortunately she ended up working with us because time had gone by whenever I talked to her with Dawson. So she ended up coming back around, and Dawson was able to win the listing. But I view Dawson and I as like we're business partners. It's important for us to rely upon one another. So whenever you're building your business, there is some bit of partnership involved. But I think that we all find our way into the real estate business for a reason. And so I think that a lot of different people come into the business for different reasons. And so I like to ask people a lot of times, like, hey, why did you get into real estate in the first place? Or what brought you? And almost always, I think that whenever I'm talking to a brand new agent, someone who's early in their career, and I ask them this question, they typically will refer to freedom and flexibility. And I don't know too many really successful agents that have freedom and flexibility. And it's like, that might be a problem. What you see on Instagram may not be the reality as you get in the business. So freedom and flexibility is some people's aspiration. Other people want to make a ton of money. Other people want to do it their own way. I mean, I think that a lot of people come to business, but as you business plan, it's important to really be in tune is why did you get in the real estate business in the first place? And then ultimately, what do you want from this career path? My answer has changed, to be honest with you. My answer has changed quite a few times. And I feel like every time my answer has changed, it's a little bit better than it was. There's a book right now called The Second Mountain. And the reference here is that your first mountain in your life that you climb, a lot of people, is about success and achievement. They want to climb this mountain. Unfortunately, some people never get off the first mountain. Some people keep climbing this mountain. Either they're slow, or for them, they just can't get a perspective that there's something more than the first mountain. The second mountain is about meaning and impact. There was a time in my career where that first mountain, success and achievement, were really, 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 really important. Why now, or what do I need to get from this career, has kind of started to transform to more of a second mountain approach. Is I want to have meaning, I want to have impact, I want to benefit. And so whatever that answer is for you, all your decisions are going to stem from that. So I want to give you my perspective on what my business plan is, because I hope that it serves maybe as some reference point to you guys, and you get to decide ultimately what it means for you. But whenever I made a decision to, in a sense, break an old business plan and start a new business plan, I felt like it was really important to build a business plan through the lens of the client's perspective. Every decision that has to be made has to be made in through the client's perspective. I listened to an interview by Jeff Bezos months ago, and he said something to the effect of, like, the first 20 years of Amazon, they didn't make a single dollar. They actually lost money. And he talked about having a long-range perspective. And he was being challenged as to their company not being very profitable back in the day. And he said, it's not our customer's problem that we're not profitable. Our customer, we should not be focused on making profits. We should be focused on making the customer happy. Because if we make the customer happy, we will always make profits, not the other way around. And he said, we are going to be so good at putting the customer's needs first and focusing on and obsessing about their best interests that they will take care of us from then on. And as you know, Amazon, that has happened. I'm even reminded of Elon Musk whenever he was doing Tesla. I saw something the other day that Honda, General Motors, Ford, BMW, Mercedes, like every major car brand in the world right now, their combined value is not as much as Tesla's value. Tesla is worth more than all those car companies combined. And early in Elon Musk's career, he was focused on making the battery for the car to last longer and to be cheaper. He continued to innovate. How can we make this battery last longer and to be cheaper, last longer? And he was trying to get that battery down to like a couple $100 because he did not want the innovation in the car to get so expensive that people could not afford it. And so Tesla's a nice car. It does have a little bit more of a luxury price tag. But even I heard him give a talk about 6 months ago. He's continued to try to innovate to bring the cost of the car down so that it's more available to people on the planet. And one of his reasons is I want low emission, less energy. I want this to serve more people, and I'm trying to get the car down to benefit, frankly, more people. I'm like, wow, here are two incredible leaders, incredible companies who are so obsessed about their impact, their contribution to the world, so obsessed about the customer experience that they're making decisions that at times may go against the bottom line, right? So whenever we think about our business model and build our business plan, if we do not start with the customer's perspective, we're off. And I got to tell you, the first 15 years of my business, I never asked the customer what they wanted. I never asked the customer what would make them excited. I never interviewed a single person. So if you're going to build a business plan, you might want to start off by talking to someone that's going to actually purchase from you and actually use you and say, hey, let me get some feedback. What would you like? What would make you excited? What would get you so pumped up that you go tell someone? If you're not having that conversation, you shouldn't build a business plan. Because a lot of times we drift into building a business plan based on goal setting. Here's my goals and here's what I want to achieve. Now I'm going to build a plan to get what I want to achieve versus before I start, I'm going to literally go talk to my neighbors. What would fire you up? What would get you to tell everybody about me? So you have to start off with the customer's perspective. A coach of mine years ago, he used this in some training that we did. He called this his empathy map. And he said, you put your customer at the center of the conversation and you have to ask, what does the customer see from their environment, from their friends, from what the market offers. What does the customer see in the marketplace? And man, we went through this exercise, and it was everything from what do they see online, what do they see on the web, what do they see from friends like buying a bigger house, or see from friends like posting about real estate, or getting a physical piece in the mail from. I mean, I used to get pieces of real estate mail that came in. It was like, here's what your house is probably worth. Here's recent sales. Well, that's a feature, but they never related it to me, like the benefit to you. So if we were to say we sold a house in West Haven, well, here's the benefit of the savings. That takes from a feature to a benefit. You always have to make your information go to what's beneficial. So the point in this is your customers are seeing a lot of stuff in the marketplace. Then what are they saying and doing? So like the real estate community right now is so hot, or the real estate market's so hot. What they're probably saying and doing is like, oh, the market's so hot, I don't want to sell myself out of a house. That's probably what they're saying. What is their appearance? What is their behavior? So you start to put yourself in the customer's shoes. What are they seeing? What are they saying? What are they hearing from their friends, from other real estate agents, from News Channel 2, from reading the National Business Journal? Oracle's moving here. Home prices are going to skyrocket whenever Oracle opens up. That's going to be like 10 years from now. But, if you're willing to hang on, that will certainly happen. And then what do they think and feel? Right now, a lot of people are thinking and feeling, I don't want to sell myself out of a house. The real estate market's so hot, I don't want to buy at the top of the market. If I buy too high, what if it goes down? We're not trying to be conclusive on this image here. The point is we have to think about what is the customer's experience in the marketplace for real estate services, from just overall their own esteem, and what pain do they have in association with this, and then what do they gain in association with this. I sat down on a listing presentation 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the guy said, he and his wife, I've never met them in my entire life. Their next door neighbor, who I've never met, had heard about us. And so they called us based on what their neighbor had heard about us. It's like, I don't even know how they heard it. So I sat down with them, and he said, we went to your website, and I talked to my neighbor. My neighbor had a son who actually knew you. And so because his son knew you, I figured I'd just call you directly. So it was like hearsay of a friend of a friend. Neighbor, son, friend. It was so disconnected, but that's how it came to me. I'm sitting down with them, and he said, we have interviewed 6 or 7 of our agent friends. And he said, we have realized, again, empathy, okay? We have realized, and this is what they're thinking and feeling. He's about to say and do what he thinks and feels. He said, we have realized that we are going to burn a bridge with someone. If we choose one friend, we're going to make 6 others mad. So we decided we wanted to hire a trusted stranger to sell the house. It's so awesome that we can just hire your company by way of you versus having to hire an individual. And if someone is upset that we did not hire them, we can now let them know, well, if your company had a better offering, we would have chose you. But it was all the same with all of our friends. Same. Okay, now how do you pick? Which one's going to get the maddest? Or which one are we closest with? Or which one are we going to see next? I mean, so that's what they're thinking and feeling. Now this is what they're saying. It was the easiest listing presentation of all time. There really wasn't even a listing presentation. They're like, yeah, you got the job. I mean, can you get the pictures done tomorrow? Like, how fast can we get this thing go? And so it sold for $250,000 over asking price before we even had the open house. And the offers were so good that we didn't. I wish we would have had open house because it gives us a chance of getting business. But they're like $250,000, we're good. So this is what the customers are experiencing. So if you're going to build a business plan, you have to start off with the customer's frame of reference first. There is something called the curse of knowledge, where you are so close to your job and so close to your industry and so close to industry norms and so close to noticing what you see on social media that it's very hard sometimes to literally get out of your own self to get the perspective of the client. That's why it's vital to ask people's feedback and really, really, really hear from them. you're going to have a lot of different answers. But there is an importance of having, like I said, I probably talked to about 200 people total, and I took the highest average. Hey, this is what the majority of people are saying. They're upset at their previous realtor that they didn't feel like their agent found them a house. They felt like they found it. Clue. Make sure that you're speaking into, here's my selections. Here's why I would say, no, let's not look at these. Make sure that you're an active participant in the home selection process. There were so many gifts that I got from the customers by asking feedback. I think I got to show you this because this video is not working. There's probably not a company out there that's doing as good of a job as VRBO and Ally Bank. Ally Bank and VRBO, when they run a commercial, it is so tailor-made to the customer's experience that you can almost see yourself in their advertisement. And so if you're going to communicate to your client, my hope is that it will be as direct and as impactful as maybe a commercial like this. Do it. We're starting this over because it's good. All right. This is Ally Bank. When we talk about the customer's perspective. I saw this commercial and I thought, man, they know what they're trying to do. People have aspirations in their life that they want to save for a wedding, for a vacation. And so their whole slogan behind Ally Bank right now is keep saving for what matters. So when you see that commercial, it's like, wow, everybody has their own aspirations. They have their own dreams. How can we help our customers win? And so Ally Bank has put their whole business model on these commercials of keep saving for what matters. VRBO is doing something very similar. I'll show you a commercial of theirs. Dadgummit. You're supposed to go play. If you haven't seen their stuff,
that face that is usually covered by her phone has finally made an appearance. That face is laughing. That face is expressive. That face is talking more than one syllable at a time. That face wouldn't be doing that if you weren't staying at a Verbo Lake house. The most you normally get from that face is an eye roll, and that's if you're lucky. Your together awaits. Find it with Verbo.
So Ally Bank and Verbo, man, their commercials are speaking straight to the customer. Hey, if you want to have connection with your kids, get away. Get like in nature and stay in a Verbo to where there is no cell phone service. Like see your kid laugh, make a memory. They're not making it so logical. They're making it heartfelt. So whenever we talk about a business plan, we have to start with the customer. This stems from a story with Jesus, and it take me a minute to tell it, but I just want to give you the context or give you the answers here. Whoever wants to be great must serve many. So your business plan should be around how can I add more value to more people? I think that's one of the most important questions that you could possibly answer when you're constructing your business plan. How can I create more value for more people? How can I add more value to more people? How can I make their face light up? How can I help them win? And so win may be speed, ease, or more affordable. I really find it weird that in our industry, like nobody's working to make it more affordable for the customer. I think that is just weird. In every industry in the world, there is some bit of effort to make it more affordable. So what I want to do is I want to take a 5-minute break, and then I want to come back and talk about You Inc. or You Incorporated. We're all small business owners, and I want to talk about what is your job as a small business owner. So let's take 5 minutes, and we'll get kicked back up. So you Incorporated or you LLC, as small business owners, I think my slide was already over one, so this is cheater, but you have two jobs: to connect to people and to sell houses. And here's the deal. I have seen some pretty competent agents that knew their stuff, that were really good at real estate, that just were not very well connected and their business was soft. And I've also seen people who were super, super connected that were horrible at their job and they had a huge business. So production numbers, unfortunately, are not always an indication as to the competency level of the agent. In a sense, we get paid on our connections more so than our competency. And that's unfortunate to a lot of degree. However, instead of warring with it, we have to become connected, right? Competency you can always train. Connections cannot, be trained. You have to put the work in. So when I see that there's almost like people and product, or humans are in houses, there is an intrinsic value into people. I believe that whenever you want to grow your business, the more heart and the more consideration, the more in love you have for people, the intrinsic value of them, the better you will do. I think that in a sense, people can kind of sniff out whenever you're being transactional, and they can sniff out whenever you're in it for the deal. So if we can develop heart for the first part of our business, and we can put in the effort, minimum viable effort, you will sell plenty of houses. I don't think that there's ever going to be a replacement for the importance of being competent at your job. But I have seen really, really, really bad agents sell a ton of houses because people trust them, people like them, people know them. So when we talk about building your business, you need to be aware of these two things. A lot of times they do start to pull you apart. Like the more houses that you're selling and showing, it pulls you away from your relationship with people, and vice versa. So whenever, like I said earlier, that newer agents, and they say, I want the freedom and flexibility of being in real estate, you must not want to be have a very high volume, because you won't have any freedom and flexibility if you get too busy. So you get to decide where you want your ceiling to be. You get to decide how efficient you want to be. What I have learned is, like, when I first was in real estate years and years and years ago, I was very inefficient. I don't produce too much anymore. However, I know that if I go to a buyer consultation, listing presentation, I'm going to spend time. People don't spend money until they have spent time first, whether that's time face-to-face, whether that's time researching. So I'm going to spend time, because I believe that, again, every hour in a meeting is going to save you 10 hours in a car, or save you 10 hours of missed expectations. Almost everyone has a level of expectation that they bring to a relationship. Almost always they're not communicated. And so you, as the leader, you have to figure out what their expectations is. I've heard it said, when expectations are not understood, they cannot be met. So if you're not having an expectations-based conversation with a buyer and with a seller, you are really, really, really going to have a bumpy road ahead. Skip, whatever you said earlier is about, the whole, I want to be 3,000 square foot minimum. They send you a 2,800. There's an expectations conversation that undoubtedly was never had. And so anytime that you learn a clue in how to get more efficient, or like, what do you mean I was sending you the wrong houses? Lack of expectations. So I've just learned over my career is that I want to have a long buyer consultation, or a full deep dive buyer consultation or listing presentation. And I want to make sure that we do not leave that meeting without clear expectations of how we communicate, how we work together, what's inbounds, what's out of bounds. I drew y'all that image earlier. I mean, I typically tell someone, this is my ranch, don't get off my ranch. You're the one that gave me the fence post. I mean, you're the one that said, this is my parameters based on my buyer questionnaire. We've constructed this together in this meeting. If you go outside of this bounds, then I'm gonna, my first question with you, if you go outside my bounds, is, are you wanting to change your entire criteria? Because if we start to do a one-off, it's never going to stop. And inevitably, you probably could have started off with a wider boundary and found it the first time, then one-off one off, one off, one off. So your expectations with clients are super important. Your business almost always is mental. Most all of it is mentality. There's a very small percentage is mechanics. I mean, you can learn the mechanics of real estate in probably a couple months. I mean, if you're really committed, you'll probably learn, if you're committed, everything you need to know about real estate, and 90% of it in the first year or two. Typically, it's going to take transaction volume to reinforce your knowledge base, but you can get the knowledge base quickly. Transaction volume, like, oh man, I keep getting beat on this multiple offer. I can get a little bit more, more skilled in how to write a multiple offer. So there are skills that will develop, but the mechanics of it is very simple. So your business, if you look at your business year in and year out, your business, in a sense, is a summary of who you are as a person. If your phone rings and people call you and check in and want to get to know you, that's probably a summary that people like you, people want to be around you, people want to talk to you. If your phone stops ringing, if people are not engaging with you, then that may be a clue that you're not as connected as you probably could be or should be. You're not as valuable. So when I look at business, a lot of times it's like a big equal sign. So it has to do with your mentality, it has to do with your actions, it has to do with your habits and your connections. So your Monday morning, I mean, what we hope to train on at the end of the week and what we hope to pick up every Monday going forward after our training is that you have a predictable Monday morning start. In your business, having habits and having ritual is really important. So like how you start your day, how you end your day, how you prospect, those things should not be left to chance. Those things should be very predictable. So here's a principle. You can't give someone something that you don't yourself have. So whenever you have You Inc. or like this is like Skip LLC or Tracy LLC, this is your company. So if you want to impart something to your sphere of influence or your customer base, you have to have first received it. So whenever we're wanting to grow our business, I look at it as resourcing ourselves with skills and abilities so that we can give that away. You've probably heard it said that the value of your network determines your net worth. In some ways, I really hate this. In other ways, it's just a truism. A lot of times we do not get paid on our competency, we get paid on our connections. So we have to have a strong network. If we find that our network is not supporting us, they're either A, we're not communicating with them at all, or not communicating with them well. Number two, when we are communicating with them, we're not speaking to the benefit, we're speaking to features. Number three is the network may not be that strong. We may have people who are just not that, they're just not good connectors. They have low energy. They're isolated, they're passive, they're introverted. I mean, like whatever the quality of your network is, they're not all the same. So, and then the last thing would be like the depth of your network. Do you have a broad enough sample size to be able to have a smaller percentage of conversion year in, year out? So if you only have, I've seen people have great skill, great ability, but their network is really, really, really small. I had a girl years ago who moved to Nashville from Hawaii. She joined our company. She was one of the first agents we ever had. She was only in Nashville for about a year or two. She didn't ever sell a single house. The problem is that her husband was in the military. So he came from Hawaii to Clarksville. Then he went from Clarksville to North Carolina. So she had to move to North Carolina. She just kept moving. And so because of that, she never really could get going in real estate, even though she had the competency. She just didn't have a network, and she wasn't staying anywhere long enough to where she could actually do anything. She had the knowledge base, but the depth of her network was not there. So if I was to advise someone on their building their business plan, your network is going to be the foundation of everything, and how you communicate with them in a very predictable way is super important. Thursday and Friday, we're going to do a deep dive on that, but that is the basis of your company. So in a sense, we are from the inside out. The inside out is who you are, what you think, what actions you take, and what you accomplish. So your actions, I encourage you to get very habitual in your actions. Your Monday morning should be just like the last Monday morning, just like the Monday morning before that. Your Friday wrap-up should be just like the Friday before last, the Friday before last. a lot of times when we start to be haphazard and sporadic, we never truly gain the momentum that we would need to have a successful business. So years ago when I was in college, I took a bowling class, and yeah, I'm going somewhere that's really bored of this. A bowling class. Y'all know those little arrows on the lanes? There's dots to where you stand, and there's 2 rows of dots, and then there's arrows in the lanes. So I'm in bowling class, and I used to love to bowl in high school just for the fun of it. I mean, I was not any good, but I go to class, and the first thing they taught you is, are you going to step right-footed or left-footed first? I'm like, what? I don't know. And I was like, how are you supposed to know? And so the instructor told me to turn around, and then he just pushed me in the back. And as soon as he pushed me in the back, the first way I caught myself was my right foot. He's like, you're a right foot first guy. I'm like, what? That's how you're going to determine? He's like, yeah, you're naturally right foot. So you're going to take, and there's 2 sets of dots. He said there's a front row and a back row. The front row's a 3-step throw, and the back row's a 5-step. So you're like 1, 2, 3. So I'm like, I never knew that. And he said, so you put your lead foot on the dot, and you move back and forth, and then you look at the arrows, and you're aiming at the arrow. So what happened I learned is that all the bowling alleys are slick, and depending on how slick they are, your ball is going to act differently. And so the longer the game goes, it's going to change. So the way you adjust, you do the exact same walk every time, and you do the exact same throw every time. The only thing that's different is where you put your toes. You just make very small adjustments, or you aim at very small arrows. And I mean, I had never bowled 100 in my entire life, and by the end of the class, I'm like over 250 consistently, and I'm just making very, very, very small adjustments, aiming at, like, putting my toe on different dots, aiming at arrows. The point being is, when we talk about habits and predictability in your work, should be very, very, very consistent in when you make your prospecting calls, when you schedule your out-of-office meetings, when you take appointments, when you don't take appointments, when you do your research. And you're making very small, nuanced decisions throughout the week to improve your performance. It's not like these great Herculean efforts, just small changes. So for your business, it being the inside out, we are going to give you a framework on Thursday and Friday that's going to lay down the foundation of exactly what you should be doing every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every month, every quarter. You get to decide. It's like a buffet. You get to decide what it is you're going to choose to do, but you have your options. And there should never be a time where you're like, I don't really know what I should be doing to get business. Simple. We're going to teach you exactly how to do that. So here's the plan. To ask yourself, where do you want to be 3 years from now? Sometimes it's very hard to have like a 50-year, 10-year, 5-year vision. I mean, like all of our visions are different, but 3 years is pretty easy to aim at. 2 or 3 years, I think, is very. How you get there is important. So for you to be a business owner, you have to have self-leadership. It's really, really, really tough if you're going to be an independent contractor for anybody to just, kick your butt. I mean, unless your spouse is just on you all the time. If you don't have self-discipline, if you don't have a level of commitment to yourself, if you don't have the determination to overcome adversity, almost all the adversity that you're going to encounter as a real estate agent is going to be psychological. Almost all of it. Probably one of the biggest points of adversity that you're going to have to overcome is the comparison trap. Almost always the comparisons trap is going to find itself in your feed. As you're scrolling on Facebook and Instagram, you're going to start to see things that you're going to compare yourself to. I think it's so important to your mental health to compare yourself to your former self. And that as you are growing are you getting better from the month before? Are you getting better from the year before? Measuring yourself against anybody else is really not a healthy thing. Almost always is its vanity. Almost always there is a posturing and an ego or some bit of self there. If you're truly focused on the customer and their best interest, it's going to be it's not even going to be a thought to like, well, how do I look in comparison to the real estate community? That's not your customer. The real estate community is not going to send your kids to college. The real estate community is not going to send yourself on vacation. The real estate community is not going to send you a client. Like the real estate community is not going to help you grow your business because we're like a bunch of peacocks that constantly try to show each other that we're better than each other. I asked Mackenzie one time, I said, Mackenzie, I've noticed that you literally have not posted about real estate in like 2 years. She's like, who has time for that? She's like, if you're working, like, I mean, I don't have any time for that. Not everyone who is crushing it is going to be on social media. I have gone back and seen like, man, anytime that I have gotten some bit of comparison, I'm not really happy and fulfilled. Like the devil is like using this to like steal my heart. It's stealing my attention away from my end user. Like in a sense, like they're the ones that I should be like looking through my feed. What is their problem that I can solve? What is their life aspirations? How can I encourage them? How can I sow into them? But I used to catch myself like, oh man, how can I beat that? So I'm just kind of pulling back the curtain because maybe I'm the only one in that. When we talk about determination and the determination to overcome adversity, almost all adversity is psychological. Almost all adversity psychological has to do with some bit of comparison. And a lot of times the comparison comes from competitors. So I just want to free you. Sometimes it's easier just to speak it into existence and drag it out in the light. That way it's not so dark and hidden. Like, oh, that's what keeps tripping me up, or that's what keeps stealing my joy. That's what keeps planting the seeds of doubt in my head versus my customer. I just want to love my people. I just want to go find the children of God that I can sow seeds in their life and benefit them. And when I'm scrolling, that's what I'm looking for. Hey, who can I add value to? No, that's my non-customer. They're an agent. They're never going to work with me. Where's my customers? Keep scrolling. There's my customer. I'm going to call them, encourage them. That's my customer. I'm going to call and celebrate them. That's my customer. I'm going to invite them to lunch. That's my customer. So be a contributor, not a consumer. Give if you're going to be on social media, not take. Okay? So ultimately, decisions shape your destiny. We've talked about things like how do we have mental discipline on social media. We've talked about how we build our network and the importance of our connections. Ultimately, we are all making decisions throughout the day. And sometimes they're big decisions like I'm going to sit down, I'm going to build a business plan for my next 6 months. July 1st is coming up. What's my next 6 months going to look like? That could be a Herculean effort for a decision. Or a decision may be like, you know, God, who do you want to put on my heart? Who do you want to bring to mind that you just want me to call and encourage? We get the opportunity to make very small decisions at every point in our day. And I believe that some of the smallest, softest hints or smallest observations have maybe the most important level of obedience in our life. Are we going to take that up, or are we always looking to hit the grand slam? Sometimes it's just a small word of encouragement. Sometimes it's just a text message of introduction. So decisions are shaping our destiny. As we are building our business, we got to make great decisions. We got to make long, meaningful decisions. We got to make decisions that are going to benefit humanity. So there's 4 priorities that I want you to have as an agent. The first priority is having a business map. I really cannot wait for Thursday. There's an amazing presentation on Thursday and Friday that we're going to go through with you guys. I'll give you a little bit of peek behind the curtain. I decided that most agents either A, were not successful, or B, they've struggled to have long-term success because they lack the habits and disciplines to do the mundane. And sometimes they hear and they know like, oh, I should be mailing my CMA to my farming neighborhood, or, oh man, I haven't talked to my past clients and give them a CMA once every 6 months. Yeah, we know we should be sending CMAs every 6 months, but sometimes you kind of forget about it. Here comes July 1st. You should be sending a CMA to your past clients. You should actually take that week and go through, here's everybody I've ever sold a house to. Every 6 months, I'm going to sit down and comp their house, and I'm going to send them an email. And the next week, I'm going to have a follow-up call with them and share with them the benefit, what that means to their specific case. Talking about customer service, I have a level of envy to financial planners, because when they're involved in someone's life, they're involved in like every decision financially that's being made. When we're involved in someone's life, it seems to be like one and done for 7 years. So if we don't want a one and done and be transactional for every 7 years, every 6 months, we need to have a CMA sharing with our friends, because they may want to do a home equity line of credit. They may want to be doing a refinance. They may finally be arriving at 80-20, their debt to income on, or their the equity on their house, to where they can drop their mortgage insurance. I mean, you could be helping them. Oh, finally, 80%, we can drop our mortgage insurance. Honey, we're going to save $150 a month. Let's put that towards date night. So if you're in the customer service industry, that's not going to pay you right away. However, it's going to keep you present, top of mind. You're going to be sowing seeds and adding value in your life. You're going to have a meaningful conversation that then is going to let them, keep referring it, hopefully. I mean, that's ultimately something outside of just the customer service. So come Thursday and Friday, we're going to give you a framework of what to do every week, what to do every month, what to do every 6 months. You get to decide what you want to do on that list. I'm not going to try to force you to do something but you will grow your business if you follow these best practices. You cannot help but do that. So a business map, you need a map to go from where we are today to where you want to be at the end of the year. Next thing is personal growth. We've talked a lot about that. Number 3 is your value proposition. Guys, your value proposition, if you have not if you're not able to distinctly articulate what makes you unique and valuable to your customer, then I would highly recommend taking the rest of the afternoon off and go to a park somewhere and walk and think until you can give your elevator pitch without the shadow of a doubt. For me, it's super simple. I make home ownership faster, easier, and more affordable. Very simply. Faster, easier, more affordable. When we say more affordable, here's what I believe. I believe that paying a percentage based on the value of your house is outrageous and crazy. There's no way in the world I'd ever do that. So at our company, we're saving around $12,000 per customer whenever people work with us. We are so focused on helping our clients save money. So anybody that you know that you think, that's my elevator pitch. I say the same thing over and over and over and over. The 2 financial planners that I spoke with in the last month or so that I did not have a relationship with, that I did not know, that have combined referred about 7 people to me in the last, I have done the exact same thing in a 30-minute meeting. I'm communicating my value. I'm communicating what I believe. I'm communicating what I think is different about the world and where I see the industry going. They refer business. But if I'm like, hey, I just want to spend some time to get to know you. Yeah, I'm in real estate and I'm at this company. I go straight for the jugular every single time because I don't have enough time to hope that opportunity comes back around. If it's 3 months from now, I want to go deep impact right away versus duration. I'm like, slow bake this thing. So your value proposition needs to be unique. It needs to be concise. It needs to be like a broken record with all amount of conviction and passion that you have. So whatever you can get convicted and passionate about, that's what you should say. If you can't get convicted and passionate about it, don't say it. You should get blood vessels in your neck. Your eyes should get wide. Your voice should go up because this is what you're like. This is what you're laboring for. You're demonstrating love. Like, can you imagine? Like, yeah, I love you. Yeah, I'll help you out. Mm-hmm. Versus, man, I want to serve you. I want to benefit your life. I want to take care of your family. Like, it's really important to me to add value to you. Like, there's a level of believability whenever you have heart and passion. That's why I said earlier, your desires, your happiness, your passions, that's a clue. If you can't get passionate about it, find something that you can lean into. And then lastly is business development. I cannot wait for Thursday and Friday and give you all this resource because business development, B2B sales, yes, we have all sphere of influence, friend to friend, but you need, if you're going to grow your business, to have business to business where you're prospecting. I just sold a house, or I guess it was 3 weeks ago. Long story short, I was prospecting to a business owner, and he referred another business owner who had passed away's estate. Long story short, they were both friends, and I get this call from someone in Idaho that I do not know. Her name was Lisa. Lisa calls me from Idaho and says, I got to settle my brother's estate, and I've been referred by this other business owner, and he said that you had an amazing offering because I need to sell this estate. I got to pay for the kids' college, and it was a pretty big number, and it pretty much paid for a year of tuition. And she kept saying, my brother would be so proud of us being a good steward of this money and for us to send the kids to college. I'm just so grateful. And it worked out perfect. It was an incredible experience. She thanked us. Long story short, hey, that state attorney, are they in Nashville that you've been working with? Or are they in Idaho? She goes, no, they're in Nashville. And like, everyone they work with, they need to send to you. This is perfect for anyone. So what am I doing? Business to business sales. You're an estate attorney and you are liquidating estate. You're trying to save as much money of the inheritance for the family. Well, I want to make sure that you know what we do for people in this situation. We have an amazing value proposition for estate planners. Amazing. So come Thursday and Friday, part of the framework that I'm going to be, giving to you guys is, what are business units that you can say, I'm going to make sure that I am prospecting and business developing these prospects that could refer not just one, not just a friend, but refer a volume of business in a predictable way as needed. Okay. So those should be 4 priorities as an agent. There's a few powerful action steps for you every day. Again, I'm going to keep beating this horse to death. Thursday and Friday, this is going to be I'm going to give you a tool that you should never wonder what to do in your business again. It's going to teach you how to structure your day, how to set appointments, how to look to add value to others, asking for introductions in a very intentional way. An example of this is taking your top 50. If you don't have a top 50 people that you're going to bet your career on, you should do that immediately, is write a list of your top 50. We'll give you the resources on Thursday and Friday to do that. But in those top 50, first thing that I want you to do, those top 50, is I want you to ask each one of the 50 people, I'm looking to expand my network. Who are 3 people that you just think are cool? Who are 3 people that you think are well-connected? 3 people that you think are on the ball, that got energy, got passion? I'm just looking to expand my network, and I'd love for you to introduce me to them. If you do that to 50 people, you will have 150 new prospects for you to start to build a relationship with, looking to add value in their life. I cannot stress the ease is very, very, very easy. Typically the quick rapport that's built and how that can expand your business. Next thing is build an ever-growing database. Every week, your database should be growing. You should be adding people to your database every single week. If you go a week and haven't met a new person, it's probably a week misspent. Like every week, should just be continue to move. And then lastly is to follow up. So we're coming down the home stretch, and I want to, let me see. I want to jump forward here about the industry. What do we do as real estate agents whenever we're doing business plan? We are in the information business. Whenever you go to work, primarily you're communicating information. Your relationship business, yes, is going to bring them in, but whenever we go that second phase of selling, you're communicating information. So the first thing is your market knowledge. You need to know, are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? Let's say for talking purposes, you go into the 37221 zip code. Well, there are large homes in 37221 over in Annandale. There's some off of Old Hickory Boulevard, like in the Fredericksburg community, and there's townhomes in Brentwood Chase. So when we say 37221, that's not like, oh, it's a hot market. Here's what the average days on the market is. No, there are so many markets within a market. It's not just like Brentwood. There's several different zip codes. There's several different school districts. There's several different price points. There are so many markets within markets. So a lot of times people, they generalize so that they don't have to think. They generalize so they don't have to communicate that they do or don't know. So people are like, oh, things are hot. You should sell while it's hot. Actually, in your location, your price point, now may not be the best time to sell. Here's what the data says. So we have to be really good at defining markets, and there are so many sub-markets within the markets. I would strongly encourage you to be slow to speak in general terms. Ask a lot of clarifying questions, and whenever you do your research and do speak, you're speaking in specificity to where people are like, wow, they know what they're saying. Other agents didn't say that. Make sense? So market knowledge is number 1. House knowledge is number 2. So whenever I said like I'd pull back an air vent to look and see if they had hardwood floors, sometimes it's just, I just understand construction. And if you don't understand construction, you may want to go to a couple home inspections just for yourself and your own well-being and just tell the home inspector, hey, I don't want to bug you. I just want to hang around for the next 3 hours and just watch how you look over a house, and anything you feel free, not even to share with me about a house, just construction in general. I would love to be a sponge and just hear you talk. So if you go into an attic and they're like, oh, these are cellulose insulation versus bat, or this is a radiant heat barrier in the attic versus just a regular decking. This is a 3-tab roof versus this is dimensional shingle roof. Tell me what that means again. You may just want to be a sponge and learn about construction, and a home inspector may just be a voice. So learning about the market, learning about a house, learn about people. Man, this is where you could spend a lifetime. I mean, they have whole psychology degrees and they write volumes of books on people. People are very, very, very complex people. Just whenever you feel like you got them pegged and you know who they are and like, oh, they're going to be an easy client. They're like a rattlesnake and they hate your guts. You're like, what the heck? I didn't see this one coming. I think it's very important to get good at understanding how do human beings make decisions, how do human beings operate when under stress, how do human beings have expectations, whether they voice it or not. There's so many things about people knowledge that are important to understand. Your area knowledge. So this is just the town, the city, the state in general, to be able to speak about why are people moving to Tennessee? Why are people moving to Nashville? That's not necessarily have anything to do with real estate, but it has to do with, I had a call the other day with a guy that's going to be relocating here from Southern California. And his question was, why is the Nashville market stable? Why would it not bust? Because I don't know if I want to buy a house. And I explained to him, well, did you know that we are within 50% of the United States population are within a day's drive of Nashville because we have Interstate 65, 24, and 40. One of our large industries is trucking and distribution. Ironically, we have another industry of entertainment, not just in music, but in books and publication. And we have healthcare. And so like I'm communicating all the different mix of industry as to why if one industry goes bust, it doesn't affect the whole city. So when you're speaking about the area, you want to have context about what is the South, Tennessee, Nashville, Davidson, Williamson, Sumner, all the different counties surrounding, and what's the benefit of those, because people want to know. People want to know drive times. I remember one time I was with a doctor at Vanderbilt. They had they had their pager. You have 15 minutes, you got to be at the hospital and you get called. We're looking at houses in Nolensville, and they were looking at a mile radius from the hospital. And I said, my recommendation is to not look for homes in Nolensville, but Bellevue was another option for them, but to only look at houses in Bellevue based on your price point. And I said, here's the reason why I would give you this guidance. Nolensville Road, where you're looking down Lenox Village, I said, is a 2-lane road. If you have to be at the hospital in 15 minutes, there is no freaking way you're going to get down the 2-lane road and all the red lights that you get down Nolensville or down you have to get down Old Hickory Boulevard. You will be late to all your surgeries. But if you're in Bellevue on 40 West does not have a lot of traffic. So you can get to the exit pretty quickly, and you can get down 40 West to Vanderbilt, and the exit's going to dump you off right there on West End Avenue or 21st, whatever one you want. Bellevue, based on your price point, is going to be better for you than Nolensville because of the drive time commute. Man, he calls me about a year later. He goes, thank you. He's like, if we would have bought Nolensville, we'd have been. And he goes, you know how I know? It's because one of my co-residents was sold a house in Nolensville, and it's become a problem to where they're going to have to sell their house because they can't make the commute. We have to be in surgery. You have to get here. So the point being is your area knowledge, you're in the information business. Realtors have value. Realtors have a place. Realtors need to be involved in the customers' lives forever. I don't think that you can ever replace this by technology. So we need to be really good at aggregating information and then communicating in such a way that benefits the customer in their unique circumstance. An algorithm, an AI, a technology product will never be able to do that. Legal knowledge, finance knowledge, and business knowledge. These are the other information businesses that we're in. Just a point on finance knowledge, where I told y'all earlier the guy that was looking around 1.4 that ends up now he's at 1.8. When I brought clarity to the conversation about for every $50 spent a month is about $10,000 in debt. Just go get an amortization schedule on your phone. Just plug in $10,000 and 3.5%, 4% jumbo loan, whatever it's going to be. It's about $50 a month. So in round math, just think if I go up $100,000, I'm going up $500 a month, right? So I'm helping it break down to him. It's like, oh, it's only $500 a month. Well, we can make $500 a month work. I'm not trying to blow your budget, but we have been doing this for 10 months and you're getting really, really, really frustrated because what you want is not what you're able to find. And we keep chasing and we're wasting one another's time. $500 a month opens up a new world for him. Oh, now we're at 1.8. So the point is your financial knowledge base is going to help bring clarity to conversations that otherwise. So these are the areas of information that you need to become a master in. I'm not going to cover all this today because I want to be mindful of our time. We will hard stop in 20 minutes. But each one of these things I broke down. So whenever we hit our time, I'm going to stop on the button and we'll pick it up later. Market knowledge has to do with property values. It has to do with home values. Property values based on supply and demand in the marketplace. Home values are much different. So if you're 3 sides brick versus 4 sides brick, big difference. Master on the main versus master up, big difference. You know, split face block on the crawl space versus poured concrete, difference. So there's difference in every house. I want you guys to understand that a 6-month market is a balanced inventory. And so in the listing and buyer consultation, I will show you how I show the balanced market to align customers' expectations to this market. Specifically, I take their questionnaire that they'll do in the buyer consultation, and I will literally treat it as if we are going to evaluate what's for sale, what has sold, and what the list price, the sales price is going to be. And so I'll show them in that meeting the average house and where you're looking is going under contract in 6 days, which means I don't want you to misinterpret me being a pushy salesperson. That would be wrong, right? I want the expectation to be if you have to sleep on an answer on a house, you're probably not going to sleep in the house. So you're going to need to make decisive decisions immediately if the house comes in the market day one. Now, if the market's been sitting there or the house has been sitting there, say for 2 weeks, the house is overpriced. It ain't no good. Something's wrong with it. People don't want it, right? So I'll show you how to evaluate that, but I just want you to understand that the balanced market is something that you always want to communicate clearly up front, and we'll talk about absorption rate pricing in the listing as well. The current inventory, I really want sellers to be aware of what the current inventory is because I view the current inventory as your competitors. And if we are going to compete, we need to run the race to win. Otherwise, we're wasting each other's time. Recent sales and then absorption rate pricing. When I talk about market knowledge, here's the things that I am talking to that we need to have competency in to be able to lead our customers to make great choices. So real estate values are determined by what a willing and able buyer will pay and a seller is willing and able to accept. So here's something I want you to understand. If a house gets shown, if somebody unlocks the door, that means that they're more than likely the buyer is able to afford the house. If an offer comes in low, that means that they may not be willing. So if I'm listing a house and the buyer's agent brings in a lower offer, I'll probably say something of this. Thank you for your offer. I'm curious, is your buyer pre-approved for this house or did you show them the house and they weren't pre-approved for it? No, they're pre-approved. Check mark. They're able, right? I want to know if they're able first. Help me understand, what about the house was a disappointment to them to where they were unwilling to pay the purchase price? Almost always there will not be an answer. Almost always. That's just where they want to start. Based on what? So I'm just asking questions because I know that houses only trade willing and able buyers and sellers. If I had the listing, I'm going to assume that they're able. If I'm negotiating, I'm going to find out why they're not willing. So just to hear you clear, they're not willing at all to pay full price for this, even though they show the price. They knew that going into it this way. Well, they're just taking a shot. They're just trying. Okay, then we're not going to be flexible. I'm not going to tell them that, but in my head it's like, no, they're just playing the game. I find that most agents are hagglers. I find that very, very, very few agents are true negotiators. You don't have a lot of opportunity to communicate your value to your customer or to your seller. So sometimes it's important to say, we received an offer. Here's what they offered. Here's what I've learned along the way. I asked them this. I asked them this. I actually want to give the customer a narration about the progress of getting here so they know what's happening versus I got an offer. Yeah, here it is. I'm trying to communicate my value because if they're going to talk good things about you to their friends, they need to know how we've arrived at this point. You got to give them something to talk about, right? This was the balanced market that I said that we would cover in the buyer and the seller consultation. So I'll come back to this. The next is we talked about house knowledge. This is about the construction quality pricing. Whenever I told you like the hardwood floors, there's some things that may not be a bad thing to go and, in a sense, get a notepad on your phone of just what are basic things of cost. How much does it cost? Call a hardwood floor guy. How much does it cost to refinish hardwood floors? What is the price per square foot on painting? What is carpet allowance? What is tile? Just have some basic numbers in your head, because typically the agent gets in there and they start to speak to sell. I want to sell the house more so than I want to inform the client. If I tell them there's all these renovations, they may not buy the house. So I want to be careful not to give them too big of a number, because then they may not buy the house. That's no good for your client at all, because then they buy the house and they're ticked because now they're upside down. Other times is you told them that it's going to be, that'd be too less, or you told them it's too much and they don't buy the house because they were too scared. I think it's more intelligent to say, let's talk about what you would want to do to the house and let's try to arrive at some pretty general numbers. That way you can make an informed decision. So your construction pricing is important. The differentiators in a house, if it's on a cul-de-sac versus on a busy street, big difference. If it doesn't have any big mature trees in the yard versus it has a couple saplings, big difference. If there's road noise, if there's a waterway, if it's in a community where the expectation is a downstairs master and this one has an upstairs master, the differentiations in houses, not all houses are the same. So I want you to be aware as you're speaking to the benefit of the house, not speaking to features, speaking to benefits. So for example, you may say, hey, the thing I love about this house, as opposed to the other houses that we've seen, is this one is backing up to a nice wooded area. You don't have someone looking in your backyard. So that may not be as important to you, but I think whenever you go to sell the house in the future, someone may have an appreciation for that. And so this house, for that factor alone, I would give this a consideration of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 more than other house, just by virtue of having some privacy. I think it's going to be an easier sell in the future. Again, you may not have a value for that, but I want to give perspective and clarity as to the differentiators of that home. Does that make sense? Interior design, the overall market appeal, after repair value. I talked to you about if somebody's wanting to do work to the property, you need to be able to speak in terms of after repair value. Not every dollar spent is a dollar earned. So if someone's going to buy this house and start doing all this work in there, oh my God, bad idea. That you may be totally upside down. This happened to me for a client. He's a close friend of mine. He has me over his house like 2 or 3 months after he moved in and never told me he was going to do any work to the house. And it was a little tiny 1,100 square foot condo, and he ripped out all the cabinets. He paid top dollar for it, ripped out everything, ripped out all the bathrooms, started all over. And he's like, man, look what I did, look what I did. He's like, I'm super proud of this and I'm so excited. And I think I've added a lot of value to the place. 3 months later, he lost his job and had to sell his place and move out of town. He calls me, he's like, hey, can we sell this place? He lost probably about $25,000 on the place, because not every dollar spent is a dollar earned. So with your buyer, when we talk about house knowledge, you need to be saying, what would you do to this house if you moved in? I want to make sure that when we buy it, you're not upside down based on all of your improvements. Some improvements you just need to absorb and love them because you love them. But if you're doing this to actually position yourself to make money, that may not be the case. So in the house knowledge, you also need to know about exit strategy. How are you going to get out of this house? Because you're not going to live here forever. Somebody's got to buy this house. Sometimes you can help someone make a great decision on purchasing a house by helping them understand why this house is going to be appealing when they go to sell it down the road. About the investment opportunity or the potential pitfalls in the house. We had a customer, I'm trying to think, I guess it was right last week, I was showing them a house, and their concern, they have very young kids, was the neighbor had a pool next door. And the neighbor had some wooded trees, but there was not like a clear fence around the pool. She didn't want to buy the house because the neighbor had a pool, and all she could think about is her kids would be in the pool. And enjoying themselves like drowning. There are certainly cases that has happened before. So some people don't even think two things about it. Like, I don't care if the neighbor has a pool. When you're going to sell, there's things that you learn along the way and like, okay, this actually could be a potential pitfall. There may be some people who look at your house to buy your house who will not buy it because your neighbor don't have a fence around his house. So that'd be important to bring up, right? In a great hot market right now, anything sells. There are some markets that's not the case. Okay, so in a really slow market, I mean, it would not be in certain price points illogical to put a fence. If you did not have a fence around your yard, you put a fence in your yard so that someone does not have a reason to let their kid go over there. I've just seen it all. And so when we talk about potential pitfalls, sometimes it's just like, really? Somebody wouldn't buy a house? Yeah, that happened to me last week. They don't want their kid in the neighbor's swimming pool. That happens. So here's a pro tip. Learn the difference of buyers and sellers psychology by paying really close attention to your clients. So if you're working with a buyer, learn how they're thinking as a buyer, because whenever you're working with a seller, you're going to know what buyers think. And then whenever you're working with sellers, learn what sellers are thinking so you can help your buyers. In a sense, those two things crisscross. Ask them a ton of questions. Certainly you want to know what they're thinking about houses. Why did you reject this house? Why would this not be a consideration? Like, this is amazing. You get like a whole day with someone. This is like your laboratory. You get to ask them a bajillion questions, not just to close the deal, but to learn about the psychology and the way that people make decisions on buying a house. Does that make sense? So like, I remember one time I was looking at Hillsborough Village and price per square foot, we're looking at square footage of houses, and every house, they didn't like it. And I was like, guys, we are looking at the price point in the location and the square footage that you guys want. Why are none of these houses working for you? Finally, like, it's kind of odd. Actually the attic space, they're not usable space. Like, the attics come down in a slant. And so they got this square footage, but it's actually not usable square footage. You're kind of like in the corner. So I started to realize is like, sometimes when people speak to square footage in certain neighborhoods that are older architecture, not all square footage is usable square footage. So you start to learn in feedback as you're helping a buyer make a decision 2 years later. You say, hey, listen, you love this house. I'm glad you love this house. Keep this in mind. One day you may sell it. And this square footage may not be as attractive to someone else as it is to you. So when you go to sell it, I want you to have that in mind, because I would encourage you to let's try to negotiate a little bit lower than maybe even you would care to, because this is an adverse thing that someone in the future may pull back on. The appraiser will only measure the square footage based on 4 feet high. So if it goes slanted all the way down, it's like 2 or 3, the appraiser is not going to use that because it's not usable. We have 5 minutes, and so I'll end on people knowledge, and we'll make it a clear stop. People knowledge, our human nature. Man, if you work in real estate as long as I have, you will learn that you can see certain patterns of behavior. You'll start to see family dynamics come to life. I mean, you almost need to be a borderline marriage counselor at times, whenever you're working with clients. It is the good, the bad, the ugly comes out in stressful situations. And so your people knowledge is really important to have a high level of empathy and heart and intuitiveness in that relationship, because you want to serve them at a deep level. And sometimes if people are frustrated, they're angry, they're agitated at the market or their lender or their spouse, it makes it hard to bring clarity to the environment. So people knowledge, you have to understand human nature. You have to have some bit of emotional intelligence. There's plenty of resources on this. I'm just kind of telling you what you need to know. So if there's anything that you like, I don't know too much about that, dig it out. Like, there's plenty out there. So human nature, emotional intelligence, social awareness, spatial awareness. I mean, I can't remember who it was. It was, there was somebody. Oh, it was Rebecca Ridenour. Before she moved to Idaho, we went and showed a house one night. This was back in February. And Rebecca wanted to go to learn. And along the way, I was teaching Rebecca kind of like what I was thinking as I was going through the house. And one of the things is that we were with a single girl. It was Rebecca, myself, and a single girl. And I told Rebecca, I said, one thing that I have learned is that I never want to be between the door and the single girl to where they feel enclosed and boxed in. I always will stay ahead of the single girl so they always can feel a comfort level that if they need to run out of the house, they could. It would be easy, like, oh, I'm not going to do anything to you. Trust me, I'm not going to do anything to you. Versus, I'm not even going to say that. I'm just going to make sure they always feel they have a clear exit. I'm going to always go and unlock all the doors front and back. I'm going to have all the lights on. I'm never going to like let them walk into an upstairs room by themselves and then I'm going to walk in behind them. I'm just showing the house. That's just real estate. I'm just showing them the house. No, have some spatial awareness and realize if you're upstairs and you're a single guy, you don't go in with a single girl in the room. You don't do that. You go and stay out of the room, stay downstairs. I will always walk in a completely different part of the house. I will go outside. Hey, I'm going to do a walk around the house and look at the foundation. I'm going to check out the HVAC. I'm going to look at the gutters. Like I'm constantly moving away from them to let them have their time. We will reconvene in a bigger open space or outside or in the car, and we'll figure it out then. But I'm not going to be in a place to where they don't feel 110% comfortable in the setting. So it's even spatial awareness and people knowledge. Like where do people feel tense? Understanding the client's external needs, understanding the client's internal needs. Almost always what they're speaking to is, I need 4 bedrooms. I want to have 4 bedrooms, 3 bath. I want to have 3,000 square feet. Versus, what do you need? What's the use of the bedrooms? Well, I need a home office. Oh, okay, home office. Would a 3-bedroom house with a basement area that's not considered a bedroom because there's not a closet window, would that work for you guys? Yes. Okay, then I want to make your search 3 bedrooms, not 4 bedrooms. So whenever they talk about external needs, 4 bedrooms, the internal needs, you need to learn what could you really be saying? What's the question behind the question? What's the underlying truth here that I can get out of them, that I can serve them at a deep level? Because if I put in the auto notification search on RealTrax, you're going to get 4-bedroom houses. They actually may not get the perfect house that was 3 bedrooms with plenty of square footage in the office and the basement. So you have to ask the questions. Everyone has a different value structure. They value things differently. Particularly whenever you have a husband and wife, there can be challenges here. You have to find out who's the decision maker. And there is going to be the decision maker, one or the other. And you need to figure out which one that is very, very, very quickly. I have found that you find out who's the decision maker by asking questions, asking a lot of questions, and starting to learn after you start to ask a volume of questions, who starts to speak first, fastest, loudest, most often, typically is going to be the one that's going to make the decision. One time I had a guy that he said something to the effect of that he was the head of the household and that he was going to make the decision. And his spouse looked at him and I thought she was going to pull his head off his shoulders. And she goes, "You may be the head, but I'm the neck." And I was like, okay, she's making the decision. She's the one I'm going to get. And I've had times where people have like, hey, can you get my husband to like this house? Can you get my... So you have these dynamics with people, and as you're selling houses, you're really managing people. And if you truly want to serve people at a deep, 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 deep level, you got to understand human nature, understand how to have empathy, understand that probably what's really going on is not being voiced. So value structure is really important. How they make their decision, what's the most important things to them, what's their decision-making process. I have seen this happen time and time again. Whenever I was younger and sold, even before I was married, when I'm selling to single people, a lot of times their parents have some say. They have some involvement. And I would stupidly waste their time and my time by getting them to see a bunch of houses and like, we're ready to buy a house. Well, my dad's going to be able to come in town next weekend. What? You mean he's got to be here to make this decision? Yeah. Yeah, he needs to approve the house. Oh my God. I should have asked that in the buyer consultation. Are you the sole decision maker? Are there any other parties that need to come in? Man, I had this happen so many times where someone comes in and they're like, look at me like, you're trying to sell my daughter a condo. You're trying to make some money off my daughter. Like that's like the feeling that I'm getting from this, from the dad. I'm like, I didn't know your name. I didn't know you're going to be the part of the process here. Versus in the buyer consultation, hey, are there any other decision makers that are going to be here? How involved do they need to be? Do they need to be here? Do they need to look at the house? I'm asking these questions before I ever put them in the car. If the husband and wife, they say, yeah, the spouse needs to be there, then before we ever start looking at properties, I really want to make sure that when we look at properties, both of you guys are together. I don't want to go off and show one and not the other, because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page to keep harmony and balance. So pain or pleasure, are they avoiding pain? Are they gaining pleasure? When somebody gets married, they want to have our house. That's something I learned whenever I got married. Hey, Jonathan, I want to have our house. I'm like, this is a great place. Yeah, this is like the bachelor pad. I want our house. Like, oh, okay, that's the thing. Whenever somebody has a baby, they want to start to have bigger space. I mean, like in all different stages of life, people are making decisions to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. And so we have the unique ability or unique privilege to help navigate these relationships to serve our customers at a really deep level. So when we talk about information, it's not just market information. It's just not housing information. There's people information. There's a few other things that we'll talk about tomorrow, but I wanted to lay this out for you. That way you can just get a basic understanding about it. We're not just selling sticks and bricks. We're not just selling our friends and getting our name out there. We actually have an incredible, incredible opportunity to play a vital role in our friends' lives and in their friends' lives. And so that's why I love real estate. That's why I love what we get to do. I think it's super, super, super cool that we get to serve the basic human needs. And I'm very proud of our company and the heart that we have of customer service. I want us to be known as a customer service company more so than a real estate company. We just get to happen to unlock doors. So we are done for the day. And so we will pick up tomorrow at is it 8:30? Yeah, at 8:30.
Look at that.
I was watching the count.
Way to go.
Hey, I got fancy. Now that I can see the time.
So tomorrow, buyer and then
Seller. Buyer tomorrow, seller. Yeah, you probably don't need that one. You don't need that one.